Chapter 407, 158 Counter Kill Under 1, the section you played. Bai Lian raised her right hand, touching the strings to demonstrate a part in the middle. It can be more explosive. It's not about the strength of the fingers, but the power of the arm and the wrist. You need to lift your arm. Bai Lian looked up and demonstrated the section again, her fingers hooking the strings, her wrist and arm gathering strength. Zang! The tone instantly elevated. The following part is in the base. Shift the focus forward, and the wrist must move too, to produce a resonant vigor. She was originally using the guzheng for her composition, and the strings would erupt in full force once plucked. Playing the guzheng also required strength in the wrist, arm, and waist, and Bai Lian had a natural talent for it. It's said that the guzheng and pipa are two formidable instruments, but mastering the rhythm required to bring out this kind of killing aura is the most difficult aspect to control. Pu Xiaohan was on the side recording her explanation with a camera, and in the end, it was a complete performance. When Jianghu Lai came to pick up Jianghu, he only heard the sound of the guzheng coming from the yard. He didn't enter, just stood at the doorway listening quietly. The girl's fingers swept the strings, producing sounds that were sometimes short and sometimes exuberant, occasionally fierce as if thousands of horses were galloping. At the end, the sound stopped abruptly. Standing at the storage room entrance, Ji Hang and Uncle Lu hadn't reacted yet. Bai Lian put down the guzheng and stood up to open the door. Jianghu Lai stood quietly at the doorway, still wearing a black coat, with only the yard light illuminating him. His light-colored pupils reflecting the light, appearing lonely and indifferent, until Bai Lian appeared in his eyes. "Were you practicing the guzheng?" "Yeah." Bai Lian stepped aside to let him in, her demeanor as usual. "You got off work early today." He hadn't gone to the lab the past couple of days to study with Xianxia, and Bai Lian thought he would be working overtime. "I went in early today." Jianghu Lai glanced at her before entering, and after the two went inside, Pu Xiaohan was still reviewing the video. He casually asked Pu Xiaohan a few questions. Uncle Lu initially wanted to smoke, but suppressed the urge when Jianghu Lai walked in. After seeing Pu Xiaohan finish recording, he took her home, declining Ji Hang's invitation for dinner with a smile. "My wife is still at home, and it's getting dark, she's alone." Jianghu Lai stood aside coldly, taking out his smartphone to open the video app. His phone did have the app installed, and after finding Pu Xiaohan's page, he casually scrolled through it, seeing mostly insults directed at the vlogger, unavoidable skepticism and doubts within the online world. Until he saw one comment, "Out of the mountains hardships come the crafty folk." To most people, Xianxia was just like that. Initially, Jianghu Lai's application for scientific research in Xianxia hadn't gone smoothly, until he took control of the Jiang family's power and allocated research funds to Xianxia. Only then did the CRSF base officially settle in Xianxia. Even now, there were still voices of opposition in Jiangjing. Bai Lian moved to bring the yard stools back into the main house, and Jianghu Lai followed her, bringing Ji Hang's teacup inside as well. "You don't seem to play the guzheng much anymore." "Except when writing songs for Yan Lu. I do play, but I don't enjoy it as much." Bai Lian was silent for a moment before speaking. Those who used to play the guzheng with her were no longer around, and she knew that Head Ji was always looking for a suitable successor for the guzheng. If the third princess were still here, she would definitely be the best candidate. Of course, now pharmacology was her real passion. Bai Lian quietly watched as the light filtered through the dust in front of her, reaching out to grab it. "Quantum mechanics. Do you know there's a type of crystal that can preserve light for an hour?" Jianghu Lai set down Ji Hang's teacup, turning to look at her. "An hour." Bai Lian's attention was piqued. The theory she had learned in modern times said that light and time were elusive. The speed of light is too fast. Time is only a concept. "Yes, anything is possible if you desire it." Jianghu Lai tilted his head, pausing to think, his expression softened. "This crystal, combined with a magnetic field, can change the speed of light's propagation, preserving it for an hour. You can't enter the lab now, but when you get to Jiangjing, it'll take you to see it." 11 o'clock at night. Back Ter Street. At the bar, Bai Lian was grading new papers, dressed in loose casual clothes, with a black pen in hand and a small desk lamp on the left side. Sun Chun wore a tight black outfit, tossing a cocktail shaker, mixing a low-alcohol drink for Bai Lian. Mao Kuan sat next to Bai Lian, not understanding. "Our headquarters are in the west of the city, at Xiankong Pharmacy," Xiaoqi spoke beside her. "The first batch of medicinal farmers has already received funding, and the number of farmers growing medicinal herbs will increase. This month I'm planning to visit the 4 major cities in Jianghu. Their Blatilla striata and Amomum villosum are quite cheap. Chapter 408. 158 counter-kill under to the countryside in Xianxia is now seeing a rise in the cultivation of traditional Chinese medicine. Profit from the price difference. By the way, Xiaoqi also wants to expand the market in the eastern part of the city. Bai Lian bowed her head to right. There are already a few Xiankong traditional Chinese medicine shops in Xianxia. Gather those traveling doctors, those old Chinese medicine practitioners, have them get certified, and employ them to offer free consultations at the shops. We need to let people witness the value and effectiveness of complete traditional Chinese medicine. The Great Internal Paste is now available in hospitals and represents a notable brand of Xiankong pharmacy. Several traditional Chinese medicine shops have opened in Xianxia, but their influence is still not strong enough. To spread their influence, we need to open shops not only in the 4 major cities but also in Jianghu. With Director Chen's support, opening stores in Jianghu shouldn't be a problem. The problem is how to gain a firm foothold in Jianghu. I'll go and report this, Xiaoqi said politely. Considering this a possible strategy, Xiankong can't rely solely on the Great Internal Paste. We have become too prominent recently, and the major pharmaceutical companies will definitely try to suppress it. Especially the international pharmaceutical giant Luo family, who will certainly react to a decrease in sales of their injury ointment. We need to integrate our product line, launch more medicines. Otherwise, our cash flow won't keep up. Will people come for free consultations? First, let them get certified, then recruit some traditional Chinese medicine doctors who can perform acupuncture. Bai Lian stopped writing, leaned back, and drew out the dagger tied to Mao Kun's knee, its cold light reflecting off her face. Teach them a set of acupuncture techniques and find an opportunity to introduce it. According to Lance, the effects of acupuncture for myopia are quite good, and there has been no rebound even after several months. Bai Lian had tried it on herself and felt this set of medical acupuncture could be promoted by Xiankong Pharmacy of Xianxia. Xiankong Pharmacy has gained a certain level of public trust with the government's assistance, and tourists from other places have recently been bringing back the Great Internal Paste as a special product. Besides tourism, it has also created another path for Xianxia. The Xianxia officials are also strongly supporting their industry. With a good reputation, the myopia acupuncture treatment won't be considered a fraud. Okay, Mao Kun took a drag of his cigarette, not daring to glance at the dagger. I'll find someone to do it. His dagger was custom-made by his godfather. It was sharp enough to sever hair with a blow. Xiankong Pharmacy, Bai Lian was technically a shareholder. Mao Kun provided the personnel and funding, which initially even came from his adoptive father. Xiaoqi contributed ideas. Sun Chun occasionally helped Xiaoqi with designs. As for Xiaowu, he would cheer for Xiaoqi and Bai Lian. Bai Lian's left index finger slowly ran across the dagger, a drop of fresh blood sliding down her fingertip. In the lamp's light, she gently smeared the drop of blood on the edge of the blade and chuckled softly. Barren mountains and treacherous waters. In the light, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her dark pupils even seemed to reflect the glint of blades and swords. Are there still people at the fighting arena? She licked the bleeding finger and turned to Mao Kun. The Pu family. Mrs. Pu was in the hall, occasionally glancing at Pu Xiaohan's room. Xiaohan has been in there for so long, is everything all right? Could she be thinking of something drastic? She suddenly stood up again. I just went in to bring some fruit, Mr. Pu comforted her. It's okay, she's just editing her video, working very hard. Inside the room, Pu Xiaohan was editing the video of the day. By midnight, the video of her eating a large bowl was finally uploaded. After posting the video, Pu Xiaohan turned off her phone and took a cup to go out for water, only to be surprised when she opened the door to find her parents right outside her bedroom. Mom, Dad. Pu Xiaohan touched her head, puzzled. What are you doing? Mrs. Pu, holding a rag, was wiping Pu Xiaohan's doorframe. Cleaning? Pu Xiaohan, still confused, filled a cup with water and then returned to her room. A certain ancient residential area in Xianxia. After taking a bath, the dashing Jianghu Lai tied the sash of his black bathrobe and casually wiped his hair before tossing the towel aside. He clicked on the video of Pu Xiaohan eating a large bowl, saved it, and then edited out a part in the middle. Leaning back on the wash basin, Jianghu Lai watched it twice. Finally, with a grand gesture, he threw 100,000 yuan worth of popularity into the video. The success of Pu Xiaohan's account was by no means unattributed to Mr. Jiang's efforts. Online, the video posted by Pu Xiaohan was pushed to almost everyone who had followed the matter. Even those who had not followed her could still come across this video in their feed. Some started off with insults, while others clicked to watch the video immediately. The beginning of the video was very dark, featuring only 2 vigorously written words, Xianxia gambling with liquor, followed by the 4 characters shattering and the accompaniment of music. What appeared was a montage of Xianxia's eastern tourist area, interactions of tourists on the stage, volunteers distributing bottled water and calligraphy, and the joyous smiles of men and women, old and young. The video slowly converged from the scattered scenes to focus on a guzheng musical instrument, which someone placed on their lap, and a pair of hands were placed upon the strings, hands that, if one were to describe them, shone with a pearly luster under the light, distinct in their articulation. The face wasn't in shot. Listening to the voice, it was female. Her slender fingertips flicked a string, producing a sound that was distant, almost ethereal. Even the low tones with heavy accents are not difficult to present. Fingers placed here need to exert more force, hence the entire arm's strength must be channeled down to the fingertips, to finally burst forth like this. Zhang. The sound quality is very rich. The fingering of this song was not difficult, but Gambling with Liquor did not have a guzheng score to begin with. Bai Shaoqi's score was entirely her own creation, and naturally, it fell short when compared to Bai Lian's original. Subtitles were provided alongside, and at this moment, even those who didn't understand the guzheng could easily grasp the forceful method Bai Lian taught. The third segment, Bai Lian replayed the music that Pu Xiaohan used in the middle of her video. Viewers could only see the hands on the screen, flickering almost like afterimages. Though it was a quiet courtyard, for a moment, it felt as if one could see a warrior charging over on horseback, with gusts of yellow sand swirling up. At the end, there was a line of text. Although Xianxia is quite poor, most of the people here are very kind. I hope everyone won't dislike this place because of me. I never said that teacher Bai Shaoqi didn't play well. I was just expressing my view on the song Gambling with Liquor. Lastly, as everyone knows I'm a fan of the Bai family, my first 2 videos were about them, and the prototype for the previous face-changing video was General Bai Li. I thought using a song that depicts his daughter, a song that portrays the Bai family's military, would be more meaningful. A 3-minute video. Not very long, Bai Lian proved through actions that this section should be played with such vigor. She convinced all the netizens with her skill. Who would believe that, until today, I always thought that Bai Shaoqi played quite well. It turns out that her way of playing really can be described as mild. I wanted to say this yesterday, but since all the hot comments were scolding the blogger, I didn't dare to speak up. Most are just bandwagoning. When someone watches a video without a thought as to whether it's right or wrong, hot comments quickly occupy their brain, subconsciously making them believe it's correct. Hot comments are also man-made. Everyone should pay more attention to ordinary people's comments and not just focus on the hot ones, otherwise, it will affect your judgment and cognitive level over time. Bai Shaoqi blended drum sets and other sound effects to adjust the grand atmosphere of the song. Her understanding wasn't wrong, but today, Pu Xiaohan's video proved. This song doesn't need drum sets, doesn't need electronic sound adjustments, only a guzheng is required to bring out the battlefield's vigor. Soon, someone posted screenshots of 2 comments from yesterday under the video. Don't ride the coattails of anything that comes by when you don't have a clue. Can you understand the style of Gambling with Liquor better than at Bai Shaoqi? For your information, Bai Shaoqi will be a student of President Jian in the future. Wind under the eaves. At Pu Xiaohan's Gambling with Liquor is of this style, get it? 46,985 likes. Chapter 409, 159 Jianghu incoming call, second update, _1, in the middle of the night, Pu Xiaohan's video's popularity was skyrocketing. The next day, early in the morning, several students from class 15 gathered around, discussing this matter excitedly. When Bai Lian arrived, she was still replying to messages from Jianghu Lai. Jiang teacher, image. It was a picture of him sitting in a car, capturing the moment the sun rose from behind the mountains. His composition was as soulless as his paintings. Just leave it there, I'll take a photo for you next time I visit. Jiang teacher. As Bai Lian sat down, Pu Xiaohan was talking to Wuxia and the others. I really don't know, someone just suddenly gave me 100,000 in popularity points. Damn, Wuxia looked at Pu Xiaohan in shock, your fans are so rich? Bai Lian raised her head and, looking at Wuxia's and Pu Xiaohan's reactions, knew that this issue was almost resolved. She took out her chemistry workbook and began to do the problems with relief. At the same time, at Jianghu's home, Jian Zhongyo had been engaged in deep conversations with Jianghu for the past 2 days and hadn't paid attention to the internet. With his phone on Do Not Disturb, it wasn't until he received a call from a student this morning that he learned about the sudden appearance of his future sect leader, Bai Xiaoqi. He put on his glasses and logged into his own account, only to receive a flood of mentions, all under Bai Xiaoqi's video, alerting him to check out this blogger. The latest popular comment, Xianxia. Dean Jian, did you go to Xianxia to see Bai Xiaoqi? Jian Zhongyo clicked on the mention and went into Bai Xiaoqi's video account. There were similar popular comments under Bai Xiaoqi's video. You're really in Xianxia, aren't you, blogger? Dean Jian must have come to see you, right? Bai Xiaoqi didn't respond, but it was like trying to hide something only to make it more conspicuous. Teacher, the student on the phone was also surprised. She's playing mind games with you now? Using public opinion to propel herself to Dean Jian's attention was a smart move by Bai Xiaoqi. If Dean Jian really had the intention, he might impulsively accept Bai Xiaoqi as his closed-door disciple under the encouragement of netizens. But Dean Jian was very sober. He followed Bai Xiaoqi's video and saw her feud with Pu Xiaohan. Dean Jian sneered, I've seen this type of person too many times. Had it been someone else, he would have let it go. After all, he was of a considerable age, and there was no need to get involved in a squabble with a kid. But this was Dean Jian, who had made a last-ditch effort with his mother to leave the Jian family when he was young. He directly replied to Xianxia. She has nothing to do with me. I don't know her. Then he clicked into Pu Xiaohan's video from his following list. Pu Xiaohan's recent face-changing video had attracted a barrage of passers-by, and it garnered quite a few friendly comments. Dean Jian saw a comment under Pu Xiaohan's video. Let me tell you some trivia. Bai Xiaoqi is going to be Dean Jian's student. He took a screenshot of the comment and then posted a public update. Image, sheer nonsense. I only have 3 students, and there will only be 3 in the future. He never considered taking her as a student. Bai Lian had a teacher of her own. Dean Jian, a master of classical music, became famous in Xianxia because of a video, and he was also a hot topic recently. The Bai family was willing to spend money, and Bai Xiaoqi's private life was closely watched by many. A well-off female top student who released a video about studying at the Jianghu Music Academy, a sphere inaccessible to the average person. The curious were in the majority. And with her hit song, Gambling with Liquor. All of this was pushing her towards the position of Dean Jian's closed-door disciple, and Bai Xiaoqi's sudden trip to Xianxia seemed to corroborate the speculation. Until now, Jian Zhongyi's statement, I don't know her, swept across the entire trending topic. Netizens clicking through the trending searches saw Dean Jian's response. So he never actually considered taking Bai Xiaoqi as his student? What was Bai Xiaoqi implying with her rhythm on the internet these past 2 days? One moment she posted a status about her arrival in Xianxia, the next she vaguely mentioned Dean Jian during a live broadcast, and even her statement from yesterday about gambling with liquor, and which style she understood better made it to the hot searches. Now, with a turnaround, yesterday she insinuated someone was dining off the heat she created. Looking back at her responses and her previous updates, she looked like a jumping clown. A flood of netizens rushed to comment below Bai Xiaoqi's video. And you said someone else is riding on your popularity by eating a big bowl. Looks like you've got a thing for clout chasing with Dean Jian, too, smiling naively. The other side has responded. Your understanding that gambling with liquor needs a drum set to bolster its presence is wrong. What do you say? The guzheng and pipa are truly deadly weapons, teacher Bai. Do you know that people in ancient times used guzheng music to intimidate others? Such comments were endless. That's how netizens are, like weathercocks, turning whichever way the wind blows. Xianxia, the mansion. Bai Xiaoqi was in her room, looking at these comments with a very ugly expression. She listened to Eat a Bowl's new video repeatedly, unable to refute. Her understanding was indeed wrong. These were not important for Bai Xiaoqi. Having a mistaken understanding was a good thing for her. But what Bai Xiaoqi did not expect was Jian Zhongyi's reply. I don't know her. I only have 3 disciples. These 2 sentences were too much of a blow for Bai Xiaoqi. She had devoted all her heart and effort to the guzheng over the past half year, barely paying any serious attention to her academic subjects. And now, this was Jian Zongyi's response? Bai Shaoqi's chest heaved violently. Her phone rang. It was Bai Shaoqi. She tried to calm herself and answered, "Brother." "Shaoqi," Bai Shu's voice was very steady. "Jian Rong told me about the thing with Dean Jian. Come back to Beijing immediately. And don't delay your classes. I've sent you a set of exercises from Jianghu. Be in Beijing in 3 days." "Okay," Bai Shaoqi took a deep breath, still not understanding. "I thought he really valued me." There were only 2 possible reasons. First, he had never valued her at that time. And second, it was because of the Eat a Bowl video exposing her weakness in gouging that had been seen by Dean Jian. Now everyone on the internet knew that Bai Shaoqi's gouging skills were not even as good as a random person hired by a blogger. "You're too impulsive." Bai Shu's voice was like a bucket of cold water poured directly from the top of Bai Shaoqi's head. "Have you forgotten what I used to tell you?" Bai Shaoqi shuddered inwardly. Ever since she had seen Bai Lian in Jianghu, her mentality had shifted. Her self-confidence and arrogance were being shaken by Bai Lian. "I'm heading back to Beijing now," Bai Shaoqi calmed down, "to focus on preparing for the college entrance exam and catch up on the effort I've fallen behind on." The incident with Bai Shaoqi was like a farce. It had started with a bang, but when it came time for her to leave, only Jian Rong was there to see her off awkwardly. In the afternoon, when Xianxia No. 1 Middle School let out, the milk tea shop next door had 2 more patrons today. Aside from Bai Lian, Ning Xiao, 3 people, Jianghu, and Pu Xiaohan were also sitting with their books at a nearby table. "My grandfather had previously mentioned that she was great-uncle's disciple," Jianghu spoke to the 3 at the next table. "I thought it was true. It's really awkward now. I heard that on the way back, her car hit the guardrail, and she injured her head, almost flipping the vehicle." Bai Lian wasn't the type to enjoy gossip, so Jianghu spoke to Pu Xiaohan instead. Jianghu was sitting next to Pu Xiaohan reading. "She's that unlucky?" Pu Xiaohan was somewhat surprised. She had heard that Bai Shaoqi was a rich second generation, and that she even brought bodyguards with her when she came to Xianxia. Why would she have an accident on her way back? Yang Lin delivered the milk tea they had ordered. She was in her school uniform, bangs as long as ever, glasses obscuring nearly all of her eyes, but her arms were no longer strictly covered. To serve the milk tea more conveniently, she had rolled her sleeves up a bit, revealing a small section of her thin, pale wrists. "Thank you." Bai Lian was sitting on the sofa by the window and thanked her. On the table, the black phone was vibrating. She picked it up and saw it was from Su En. Bai Lian still held a pen in one hand, and with the other, she casually answered. On the other end of the phone, Su En stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows in Su family's office, overlooking Yunshao district. He now had a direct way to contact Bai Lian. "Alien, does your grandfather have enemies in Jianghu?" "What do you mean?" Bai Lian's pen tip paused on her homework book, sitting up straight. "Someone's been inquiring about your grandfather at Yunshao Hotel." Su En pressed his brow, deeply concerned. Bai Lian's eyes narrowed slightly. "Who?" Chapter 410, 160 Jianghu's Secret. The villain causes trouble under one Jianghu. Su En walked back to his desk, flipping through documents. "The news from the hotel," Su En said gravely. "I had thought it was just a business partner, and the hotel did not disclose the guest's information. However, people have still been conducting covert inquiries these past few days, and they might soon find out about you." After the incident at Su En's wedding banquet, Mrs. Su and the Qi family would surely probe for information at the hotel. Even Zu's assistant had received hints both openly and implicitly. All of these were within Su En's control, except for this one force that left Su En at a loss for how to proceed. Su En also found it odd. If someone were investigating Bai Lian, he might understand, but why would anyone look into Jianghu's affairs? And the Su family had no clue whatsoever. "Fine, it's probably not an enemy," Bai Lian mused as she twirled her pen in thought. After being together for half a year, Bai Lian knew Jianghu well. But if not an enemy, then who could it be? Zhang Fulai arrived late tonight. By the time he got there, Ning Xiao and Tang Ming had left, their discussion with Bai Lian having been sufficient. The black business car's rear door opened. Ming Dongheng turned off the engine and rolled down the window without getting out. As he stepped out of the car, he saw Bai Lian sitting by the window. The milk tea shop had already closed, leaving only the dim yellow light beside her. Jianghu sat next to Bai Lian, not reading, but yawning and leaning on the table, cocking his head to look at her. Jianghu Lai pushed aside the door curtain with his hand, the clear, tinkling sound of the wind chimes accompanying his entrance into the milk tea shop. Have they all left? Jianghu Lai sat opposite Bai Lian. Yeah, you're a bit late today. Indeed, after Jianghu Lai finished with his team today, he checked the lab equipment, considering whether to design a light storage chip. Reviewing the materials had delayed him by an hour. Jianghu Lai wanted to ask more, but his gaze shifted to the cut on her finger. He reached out and gently held the back of her hand, his fingertips pressing into her palm, then looked down at her index finger. There was a small bloody cut there, not long but visibly deep. The blood had not coagulated even after a whole day, seeping intermittently. Jianghu Lai raised his head to look at her but said nothing. This wound was neither painful nor itchy for Bai Lian. She just looked down at Jianghu Lai's fingers. His fingers were long and clean, glowing softly, with some thin calluses on his thumbs, and they felt a bit cool to her. A minor cut, Bai Lian propped her chin lazily with her other hand, her cool black eyes half closed as she looked at him. I'll heal in a few days. Jianghu Lai lifted his gaze, watching her quietly as if looking towards her shoulder. He gently lowered his eyelashes and fell silent again. Back in the car, he took out the first aid kit, selected an adhesive bandage, and sprinkled some medicinal powder on her wound. The rear light was on. Bai Lian watched him attentively apply the medicine to her cut. She wanted to tease him, saying that for such an injury, he would be laughed at in the barracks, but seeing his earnestness, she suddenly couldn't bring herself to speak. This man was seriously concerned about whether she was in pain. The car reached Heiress Street. Jianghu was drowsy in his seat. Jianghu Lai got out of the car and walked her down the alley of Heiress Street. The street's alleys were all fitted with solar lights, which even at night, were very bright. I used to be quite afraid of the dark. Bai Lian rarely brought up her past, perhaps because the night was quieter, but I overcame it later. That's impressive. He kept his gaze lowered towards her and praised her earnestly. Reaching the corner, Jianghu's yard lay just ahead. Bai Lian stopped, she adjusted her backpack, and stood her ground. You should go first. Jianghu Lai stood at the corner and didn't move. Bai Lian. He suddenly spoke. Bai Lian waited for the rest of his words. Behind him was a dim light that illuminated his sharp profile within the shadows. His eyes intensely focused on her. Can I hug you? Bai Lian stood in place, momentarily stunned, as the breeze gently brushed by. Perhaps 2 minutes passed. Jianghu Lai leaned in slightly, his left hand clasping around her waist. Her body temperature was a bit higher than his. He enveloped her quietly, as if embracing the moonlight he held so dear. The fingers at her back tightened slightly, yet he held back the force with restraint. Bai Lian thought she could hear the heartbeat against his chest and the faint scent of mint surrounding her. The two parted ways. Jianghu Lai took out his phone and headed back. He wore a black trench coat, his entire demeanor cool and detached. On the driver's seat, Ming Dongheng hadn't turned off the car since Jianghu was still inside. When he spotted the figures, he opened the rear door. Suddenly, something caught his attention. Wait. Just now, young Master Jiang's movements were in perfect sync. Young Master, the butler called just now, hoping you would return the call, Ming Dongheng reported, glancing inadvertently at the rearview mirror. Chapter 411. Jianghu's Secret. The Villain Causes Trouble _2. Jianghu Lai looked up, his pale eyes as cool as ever. Ming Dongheng dared not probe further. His hand trembled, and he quickly averted his gaze, placing his hand on the steering wheel. He quickly stepped on the accelerator. In the back seat, Jianghu Lai turned off one light, leaving only one on for Jianghu to sleep, and unfastened a button on his shirt. He reached for the phone on the partition and dialed a series of numbers. Young Master, the voice on the other end of the phone was somewhat aged and very respectful. You haven't been to MTAR for a long time. The professors there have been asking about you. No. Jianghu Lai leaned back relaxedly, with a light from the lamp falling obliquely to his right, most of his face concealed in the shadows, his voice lazy. Your vital signs, Jianghu Lai interrupted him. I'm taking medication. Medication. The other side paused. Yes, Jianghu Lai lowered the car window slightly, letting the wind pour in, the corners of his mouth lightly lifting up, Someone prescribed me medication. Indifferent, yet with a hint of subtle pride. The butler was silent for a long while before saying, "I'll send the blood draw team from MTR to Xianxia." Jianghu responded nonchalantly. "Young master," the butler reminded him, "the clan has learned about your association with a young lady, and your uncle probably knows too." Jianghu stiffened at this, his relaxed expression vanishing, and he answered coldly, "They don't need to worry about this." On the other end of the phone, the butler sighed softly. Jianghu was designing graduation attires for Class 15 and was still drawing in the courtyard. Dean Jian was observing his design in pajamas. First, Jianghu drew designs for the girls. Pu Xiaohan collected the class opinions. The boys couldn't articulate their preferences and left it to Jianghu's discretion, whereas the girls had plenty of bold ideas. Alien, seeing Bai Lian return, Jianghu looked up, hesitating slightly. "For your class graduation attire, would you accept a cardinal red color?" Bai Lian had been given a vibrantly colored dress by Jianghu when she first arrived, but she had never worn it. After synthesizing the opinions of the girls in Class 15, he felt a white top with a red skirt would suit these youthful and beautiful girls. Jianghu had never asked her why she didn't wear such colors before, but now he decided to ask her. If she didn't want to wear it, he would make an individual piece for her in the same style but a different color scheme. Bai Lian closed the door and, hearing his question, looked over at Jianghu. Graduation pictures were also due in May. She calculated the time. "I can," Bai Lian replied to Jianghu. Jianghu was taken aback. He had thought Bai Lian would say no, but hearing her agreement he smiled. "I thought you didn't like this kind of color scheme." "Not at all." Bai Lian put her backpack in her room and came out to fetch water. "I like them all. You can go ahead with confidence." After a moment of thought, she carried the water and squatted down beside Jianghu. "Uncle Su said today that someone at Jiangjing Yunshao Hotel was inquiring about you." Jianghu's hand, holding a pencil, paused. After a moment of reflection, he shook his head. "It's nothing." Bai Lian observed Jianghu's expression, which was almost as she expected. Those people had no ill intent. That meant there was nothing to worry about. Everyone has secrets. Both she and Jianghu had theirs. Jianghu never inquired about hers, and she wouldn't probe into his secrets either. Bai Lian stood up, carrying the water. Seeing that Bai Lian had only greeted him since entering and none else, Dean Jian became anxious. "Bai Lian, I see you also like the zither. Why won't you accept my suggestion?" "Where did you see that I liked the zither?" Bai Lian asked lazily. "Just." As Dean Jian looked through the door at the zither on Bai Lian's table, he started. "You don't like it, yet you buy a zither for 288,000 yuan?" Zither were cheaper than pianos, and one worth 288,000 yuan was already considered a collector's item. Dean Jian knew of the exhibition at the time, but he hesitated and decided against visiting, fearful he might impulsively take the zither home. As the dean of the Jiangjing Music Academy, he didn't have such an amount in savings. Most of it went to supporting children learning the zither and some to charity donations. This 288,000 yuan was also a significant sum for him. He had not expected that upon his arrival at the Ji family residence, he would see the zither of his dreams sitting on Bai Lian's table. "Ah!" Bai Lian slowly lifted her head, looking at the cool zither on the table. 288,000 yuan? You didn't know." Dean Jian was mid-sentence when he suddenly sneezed. Jianghu put away his pencil and looked up at Dean Jian. "Caught a cold? You should go back to your room to rest. I'm going to sleep too." Bai Lian returned to her room, poured the water into the wooden tub, carelessly let down her hair, and then picked up her phone. Chapter 412. Jianghu's Secret. The Villain Causes Trouble _3. Took a photo of the Guzheng. By student. Image. By student. 288W. Jianghu selected by student. Image, to reply. "You still take the best photos. Teacher Jiang. Next time I'll let you take all the photos." Bai Lian. Dean Jian stayed in Xianxia for several days. Because his era music had blown up, a lot of musicians had come to Xianxia lately, all wanting to perform on the public stage in Shandong, among them some internet sensations. Many videos became viral, reaching a phenomenon level. The hype about Dean Jian gradually got overshadowed by these people, and he finally could step out of the Ji family to take a good look around the city's east side. Xianxia Mansion. Jian Zhonghai hadn't managed to find Jian Zhongyo during this time and seemed to age years in an instant, his gaze filled with deep world weariness. He still refuses to see me, huh? Your elder uncle might not know you're here, Jian's assistant comforted Jian Zhonghai. It's been so long, he might have returned to Jiangjing, sighed Jian Zhonghai as he set down his chopsticks. Now that his spy in Jian Zongyi's camp had been exposed, getting information next time wouldn't be as easy. The Jian family was also getting ready to go back to Beijing. Outside the door, Xianxia came in with 2 books in his arms, knowing his grandfather and father were about to return to Beijing and came to see them off. Jian's assistant glanced at Xianxia. Is young Master Xianxia really preparing for the graduate entrance exam? Yes, Jian's father quickly pulled Xianxia over to Jian Zhonghai. Dad, look at Jian Rong's teacher. Jian Zhonghai didn't pay much attention to Xianxia, he glanced casually at him. I will have someone send you a copy of Jian Rong's class material. Xianxia looked down, not saying he didn't want it. Thank you, Grandpa. Looking at Xianxia with frustration, Jian's father said, We are leaving tomorrow night. You make sure to come and see off your grandfather. You may not be as smart as others, but can't you at least learn to ingratiate yourself? Xianxia scratched his head, about to leave for the library to read. No can do, it'll probably be at the milk tea shop at that time. He had gotten into the habit of reading there every day. Milk, what milk? Jian's father twisted his ear. You must make sure you're there tomorrow. Meanwhile, at Beijing High School, in the principal's office, Xiaoka left in a hurry. His mentor called him into the lab. The genteel-looking woman brought New Year's gifts to Principal Li, smiling. She sent me to come see you. He's in the lab? Principal Li looked up abruptly. He was quite surprised. Although Bai Xiaoka was the Beijing top scholar back then, Principal Li knew he was still far behind those students from Jiangjing's affiliated middle schools, so it was unexpected that he found a mentor after only half a year at Jiangjing University. Such progress. Yes, but he's just started. No one else knows yet, except Jian Rong. You must know her, right? She and Xiaoka have been close friends for many years. Guai Yueqing was very polite. She lowered her head and picked up the teacup. I heard you and Xiaoqi's homeroom teacher visited Xianxia. The incident with the Bai family hadn't looked good back then. Ji Mulan wasn't someone easy to deal with, and Principal Li was also aware of the situation with the 3 Bai children. Before the visit, Principal Li didn't know the person was Bai Lian, who had a significant connection with Bai Xiaoqi and Bai Xiaoka. To look into the school's situation, nodded Principal Li. After finishing a sip of tea, Guai Yueqing set down the teacup, her eyelashes drooping, seemingly offhandedly. As I recall, Xianxia's teaching resources aren't that great, right? This was a fact, but after Bai Lian's scores came through last time, Beijing Education Bureau had allocated quite a lot of resources there. You see, Guai Yueqing said as she stood up, leaning slightly towards the principal. You are so busy, I won't disturb you any longer. After the visitor left, Principal Li looked at the large present laid out on his desk, a thin layer of sweat forming on his back. Are you sure? The person on the other end of the phone sounded very surprised. Principal Li took a deep breath. Guai Yueqing just wanted him to take a side. Our school's top scorer from last year just got resources from Jiangjing. Issue a notice, as of today, Beijing High School will no longer share resources with other schools. This had a lot of impact on other schools, but Beijing High School itself was unaffected. Jiangjing allocated some teaching resources to schools below it every year, based on the high school entrance examination scores, and Beijing High School almost enjoyed all the resources exclusively. If this announcement is issued, in case some other school gets hold of the teaching resources before us in the future, we also won't be able to. The person on the phone hesitated. Don't worry, even if we hypothetically let someone else score higher than our top scorer, our school will still perform better than Xianxia, Principal Li confidently stated, as every student in the international class was ranked in the top 100. The next day, Friday. Xianxia Middle School always distributed synthesis and expansion papers every Friday. But today, there was not a single one. Teacher, Wang Qi raised his hand after the second chemistry class in the afternoon, asking the chemistry teacher, Don't we have a comprehensive paper this week? The papers for seniors were very important. The high school examination paper setters would create some new types of questions. The setters were in Jiangjing, and it was not easy to obtain their regular papers, along with some exercises meticulously researched by elite teachers from Jiangjing and the 4 major cities. There were almost 1 or 2 questions exactly the same every year. Tricky and novel, That was the reason all schools kept having their students work on these papers non-stop. But today was strange. It was the weekend, and yet not a single paper had been distributed. The chemistry teacher was very aloof. He looked at Wuxia. "Do you want to do papers?" Wuxia was astonished. "No. Teacher, come to my office." The chemistry teacher, indifferent to his moans, turned and walked away. "I'll tear a couple of papers for you." Wuxia. Why did he have to talk so much? In the principal's office, the atmosphere was somber. After school in the afternoon, Bai Lian, Ning Xiao, and Tang Ming, having learned about Biqing's news, he smoked a stack of cigarettes alone in the principal's office. The office was filled with smoke. Seeing the 3 students arrive, the principal opened the window to clear the smoke. He looked at the 3 students, afraid of disappointing them, yet finding it difficult to speak. "Starting this week, we won't have any extra expansion papers, and there won't be any for the next 2 joint tests either. You'll have to..." These extra expansion papers were really important for Xianxia Middle School. They were already behind in educational resources and access to information. "I know," Bai Lian nodded nonchalantly. The principal was taken aback. Beside Bai Lian, Tang Ming scratched his head. "Principal, is there anything else?" The principal had thought that when he brought up this matter, the 3 students might be upset, and the reaction could be intense. But he never expected them to react like this. The principal snuffed out his cigarette, took a long sigh and said slowly, "Without the extra expansion papers, you won't get the new types of questions, and there will be a certain gap between you and other schools. We haven't provided you with the best." He tried to explain the situation clearly to them. Bai Lian only heard, "Without the new types of questions, there will be a certain gap between you and other schools," and looked up. "You need new types of questions?" She reached into her backpack, pulled out a fairly thick workbook, searched a bit more, and then flipped out an error correction book. She handed it to the principal. Chapter 413, 161 Young Master Jiang. Haven't hugged yet today, second update, _1. Principal, we've worked through this book before, and I've marked all the worthwhile problems for Ning Xiao and the others. See if you can print it. Bai Lian placed her backpack on the table. One of the books was a problem set brought to her by Jianghu Lai from Jianghu affiliated middle school this year. Most of the advanced problems were in their problem set. When Bai Lian and Ning Xiao worked on it, they marked all the useful problems individually. The other was new problem types they had excerpted from the Jianghu University app, which were quite challenging. She had asked Jianghu Lai whether it was okay to show it to others, and upon hearing it was, she originally intended to give it to Yang Lin. Now, she directly handed it to the principal to photocopy the main problems for everyone. This way, Yang Lin had no reason to refuse. "What's this?" the principal asked in surprise, taking it. As he looked down, he saw the bold text, Jianghu affiliated middle school current students problem set, snap. The cigarette but he held between his fingers dropped onto the table as he stared in shock at the problem set from Jianghu affiliated middle school, undeniably the best middle school in the country. The affiliated middle school would invite teachers who set the college entrance exam papers to give lectures and devise practice problems and exams for the students. It could be said that the value of this problem set, especially for the current students, was extremely high. The principal looked up, his hands trembling as he flipped through the problem set. It was indeed from Jianghu affiliated middle school, and he couldn't contain his joy. He sat down again and continued to peruse the book. Principal. Noticing that the principal kept flipping through the problem set without saying a word, Tang Ming couldn't help but called out, "Should we leave first?" The principal didn't lift his head but simply waved his hand. "Yes, yes." He continued reading. Tang Ming. Almost everyone thought Bai Lian and Ning Xiao's rapid progress in their grades had something to do with Biqing's problems. Little did they know, acquiring those problems was something Jianghu Lai or Dean Ma could do at the flick of a wrist. Their grades improved so quickly entirely because they had 2 human-shaped cheats. Milk tea shop. When Bai Lian arrived, Xianxia was already there. The music inside the milk tea shop was playing Yen Lu's song. It was Friday, and there were many people queuing up to buy milk tea. But not as many people were buying cakes. Bai Lian took out her earphones and answered a phone call. "Recently, many people have contacted me," said Sister Xian on the phone, asking if Teacher Bai Jian has any new songs to sell to them. They've offered a high price. One person in particular offered a whopping 5 million just for you to compose a Guzheng piece. No lyrics needed. Yen Lu's last two songs had both been smash hits. The lyricist and composer were the same person. This bit of big news had just emerged in the entertainment circle, as everyone tried to dig up who Teacher by Jen was. This person appeared out of the blue and immediately propelled Yen Lu to an unattainable height for others. News of a genius in the songwriting circle quickly spread, and since these people couldn't find Bai Jian, they turned to Sister Xian as an alternative. Many sought Bai Lian for composition, but this was the first request for a Guzheng piece. "I'm too busy," Bai Lian said as she sat by the window, put on her Bluetooth earphones, reached out to unzip her bag, and took out the reduced notation sheet from last time. "And don't bother telling me about these requests in the future." Writing songs for Yen Lu was because the client was Yen Lu. "Why don't you start a Weibo account?" Sister Xian suggested over the phone. "This is what the fans recommend. Your lyrics and compositions have attracted a large following." Weibo. Bai Lian sifted through her memory for the term. "Let's talk about it later." Right now, her main focus was on her studies. There's still so much to learn in chemistry and biology. Bai Lian ended the call, took out her notebook, and started writing new problems. During this time, Dean Jian sent her a WeChat message. "I bought a train ticket for tomorrow. Bai Lian. What time?" Dean Jian was leaving Xianxia. "Are you really going to take the exam for Jianghu University?" They had discussed this matter countless times, and Bai Lian couldn't be bothered to explain again. 1. Beijing. Bai Xiaoqi put down her pen, having just finished a phone call. Beside her, Song Min was staring at her, and after she ended the call, he asked, "How did it go?" "They disagreed." Bai Xiaoqi shook her head. "They didn't agree even with 5 million? Madame Song was surprised. Even the most indifferent person to fame and fortune wouldn't disregard 5 million, right? Bai Xiaoqi pressed on her temples and continued with the problems on the Jianghu app. "I'm not sure." She had a lot on her mind lately. Her mother's return to the Bai family was halted, and because of the Guzheng, she had fallen behind in her classes. She had almost no idea how to tackle the current problem. The pen nearly ripped through the paper. "Don't rush," Song Min comforted her from the side. "This problem is quite difficult to begin with. Even God Jian hasn't come up with an answer, and I haven't figured it out either. Don't get distracted because of Headmaster Jian's issue." He had become acquainted with Bai Xiaoqi early on because of the Guzheng and later found out that she was part of the Bai family and Bai Shuk's sister, with impressive achievements in mathematics. Thinking of mathematics inevitably reminded Song Min of Bai Lian. Bai Xiaoqi saw his thoughts drifting away and took a deep breath, bowing her head to continue working on the problem. "I know." Song Min snapped back to reality. He pressed a hand to his forehead and continued to open the Jianghu University app, clicked on a profile, and in less than half a year, he had already garnered over 2,000 followers. However, God Jian only followed one person. Song Min clicked to open the list of whom that person followed and saw casual L. "This L has to be a core figure from Jianghu Laboratory." Bai Xiaoqi watched him motionless for a while and couldn't help but glance over. To be mutually followed, God Jian must also be a core figure in the laboratory. Everyone knew this. Song Min nodded. His finger tapped to open the chat window with Bai Jian. Scrolling down from the top, he had sent many messages, while the other party had not read a single one. He couldn't help but send another message. "God Jian, what are you busy with recently?" Today, as always, Jiang Fulai came to pick up Bai Lian. Tomorrow, the two were supposed to meet Zhang Xiai's. Jiang Fulai also had the day off and arrived early today, at 7, accompanying Bai Lian in homework until 9. During that time, he received a phone call. Jiang Fulai looked at the phone, furrowed his brows, not wanting to disturb Bai Lian's studying, so he went outside to take the call. On the other end was Su Nanjing. His voice was casual and flamboyant with a hint of teasing. "On behalf of your butler, I am tasked to collect your blood. I hope you won't be at the laboratory when I come." Jiang Fulai was not as resistant to this as before. He stood coldly outside the milk tea shop, his voice indifferent. "Bring an extra collection tube." "An extra tube?" Su Nanjing on the phone sounded surprised. "You need 2 tubes?" Jiang Fulai, looking at the floor-to-ceiling window, had no interest in further banter with Su Nanjing. "Yes." He hung up the phone. On the other end, Su Nanjing, heir to the Jiangjing Su family, stared at the phone that had been hung up, dumbfounded. "He just hung up on me like that?" "Look at you," his mother glanced at him. "It's quite normal for young Master Jiang to hang up on you. I remember the first time I went to see you study. What did he say? Su Nanjing, I've said it 100 times, bring your brain when you come. Thinking about this still made Mrs. Su laugh. The young master of the Su family had been as haughty as Jiang Shijue since he was young. No one at home could control him except for Jiang Fulai. Not to mention Su Nanjing. Even Su Nanjing's father felt apprehensive around him. Even though Su Nanjing's father belonged to the same generation as Jiang Fulai's father, he dared not utter a word in front of the younger man. Hearing Mrs. Su mention this, Su Nanjing couldn't help but roll his eyes. Now that I think about it, Mrs. Su suddenly spoke. Isn't there a rumor that he has a girl? Su Nanjing tossed a peanut into his mouth. Seems like it, from Xianxia, a high school senior. Ah! Mrs. Su was taken aback. A senior, that's rather young. Is she at the affiliated high school? When it comes to high schools in Jiangjing, the affiliated high school was the top institution with half of Jiangjing University students hailing from there. So naturally, Mrs. Su would assume that the girl by Jiang Fulai's side was from that school. Su Nanjing gave her a look. She attends high school in Xianxia, that's where they met. Today is Friday, and early in the morning, Jianghu went to Jianghu's place along with Director Chen. Xianxia. Mrs. Su had only recently come across this place. It was trending, but that didn't hide its remoteness, on the outskirts. Will she come to Jiangjing in the future? I don't know. Jiang Fulai had kept things so secretive that Su Nanjing had learned of it only through hearsay. It seemed the girl's academic performance was quite ordinary. Passing the entrance exam for Jiangjing University would be a challenge for her. Would Jiang Fulai scold her when teaching her problems? Knowing nothing, Mrs. Su waved her hand in irritation. Remember to take a photo for me, bring over some practice problems. I don't know what kind of person she is. She was best friends with Jiang Fulai's mother. But what matters are the elders in Jiang family and the Gao family, Mrs. Su sighed. Given the status of the Jiang family, she could understand why Jiang Fulai kept information about the girl's secret. If this child truly came to Jiangjing, she wondered whether the Jiang butler would be able to protect her. The battles between the families in Jiangjing were fraught with danger. Truly troublesome. You're worrying too much, she might not even manage to pass the exam, Su Nanjing raised an eyebrow. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Fulai returned to Bai Lian. Today is Friday, and early in the morning, Jianghu went to Jianghu's place along with Director Chen. At 9, Jiang Fulai took Bai Lian back. I've given the practice problems to the principal. Although Jiang Fulai had said that she could do as she pleased, Bai Lian still told him, sitting in the passenger seat and fastening the seatbelt. Jiang Fulai tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, dressed in a white shirt today, glanced sideways as she buckled up, and said casually, You may give them to whoever you want. The car slowly made its way towards Purist Street. Jiang Fulai got out of the car and escorted her inside. Stopping at the same bend as last night, Bai Lian paused there. Whenever Jiang Fulai escorted her, she would stop here and watch him leave first. Today, however, he just stood there silently without leaving. Bai Lian raised an eyebrow. What's up? Going to take Jianghu back with you? No, Jiang Fulai's figure was shrouded in shadows cast by the solar lights, his cold, distant features lowered. He softly said, I didn't get a hug today. Chapter 414. 162 Affection. Looking for, first shift, _1. The light was dim, and the only shadows cast on the wall were those swaying from the phoenix trees in the neighboring yard. Jiang Fulai slightly lowered his head, his voice still carrying its usual coolness at the end. A gentle breeze rustled through the treetops, and occasionally, snippets of conversation would drift over from the courtyard not too far away. He gently pulled Bai Lian toward him, embracing her lightly. His gaze swept past the black tips of her hair, the wooden hairpin shimmering slightly in the lamplight, and her slender, fair neck. Only this time, he rested his chin on Bai Lian's shoulder. He gently rubbed it against her shoulder. Down the alley, there was just a faint whiff of cool mint in the air, creating an atmosphere that was quiet yet somehow restless. All right, he let go, stepped back and watched her for a moment, his shallow, pretty phoenix eyes bending ever so slightly. Good night. In the courtyard, Jianghu sat on the stone table, drawing design diagrams, while beside him, Jianghu held half an apple in one hand and a puzzle piece in the other, leisurely fitting pieces together. The nearby lamplights stretched their shadows long. Bai Lian opened the door and came in, her voice calm. "Grandpa, I'm back." She would always say this to Jianghu every day when she returned home, and likewise before leaving the house, and Jianghu would always wait up for her, no matter how late. "There's still tang yuan in the rice cooker," Jianghu said, looking down at his paper, studying it for a while before finally making a stroke. Bai Lian set her school bag down in her room, served herself a bowl of tang yuan, and while eating, pulled out her phone. "A message from Su Wenyao. I asked a friend to find this new question bank for you." Su Wenyao, image. The contents were all biology and chemistry, thanks to Principal Huang's relay. He understood Bai Lian's weaknesses well, and these materials were not easy to come by. Su Wenyao. "Shall I send it to your school?" Su Wenyao had been to Xianxia and knew Bai Lian attended Xianxia No. 1 high school. "Bai Lian. I'll have someone pick it up from you tomorrow." Yan Lu had finished her scenes in Xianxia and was off to Jianghu to shoot the last segment, which should take a bit over a month to complete. Sun Chun and Xiaowu had gone to Jianghu in the last couple of days, partly to deliver a contract to Yan Lu and partly to scout the traditional medicine market there. Now with traditional medicine on the decline, Xiaoqi was very ambitious. Speaking of which, Bai Lian turned to Sun Chun's WeChat, asking her to see Su Wenyao the next day. While eating the tang yuan, Bai Lian continued to check her phone non-stop. After watching her for a while, Jianghu set down his pen, took out his own tobacco pipe, and said, "If you're eating, then don't study. You should balance work and rest." Bai Lian took a sip of soup, looked up, and asked, "Grandpa, what does wave-particle duality of light mean?" Jianghu. He lowered his head and pried out a piece of the puzzle that Jianghu had just put together, saying sternly, "You got this wrong here." Jianghu still had the apple in his mouth, watching wide-eyed as Jianghu removed the piece he had just placed, and then forcefully squeezed it into a spot where it didn't belong. Jianghu. Saturday. Su Wenyao found some free time to visit the Su family. He happened to run into the hurried Wang director, who had just come back from abroad. Upon seeing Su Wenyao, Wang director's face sprouted a bunch of creases with a smile. "Wenyao." Wang director. Su Wenyao was very polite to him but also quite distant. He headed straight for the elevator, leaving Wang director behind, who spit out a paw near the elevator doors. He had business left unfinished abroad, but upon hearing Chen Ye's news, he hurried back. However, the Su family remained tight-lipped about the matter, and he could not pry any information even from the lips of Mrs. Su. Ding! The elevator doors opened, and a middle-aged woman stepped out. "Oh, Wang director," the woman, followed by a secretary, looked spirited and efficient. "You're back from vacation. I'll have a drink with you another time. I need to go report to our old master." Wang director's face darkened. He recognized the woman. She was from the Ma family, the one he had lost a case to before. He had not expected that this time she would seize the opportunity at the wedding banquet. Getting to know Shin Min watching the woman's retreating figure, his smile twisted unnaturally. Who would have thought that in Su En's second marriage, he would marry someone unknown, yet manage to invite Shin Min and the Chen family? Upstairs, Su Wenyao was reporting to Su En about the laboratory situation in school. Ji Mulan followed Su En, studying design, but also striving to get closer to the Su family. She understood a bit of what Su Wenyao was saying. Outside, Mrs. Su, leaning on her cane, entered. She knew that Su Wenyao would be coming to Zus today, so she came directly. "Wenyao, what's been going on with you and Shuyun lately?" "I have made things clear with her." Su Wenyao did not want to discuss this with Mrs. Su. Rubbing his forehead, he stood up. "Grandma, I still have to deliver exam materials to Alien's friend. I'll head downstairs first." Chapter 415. 162 Affection. Looking for, first update, _2. He headed straight out the door. Su En and Ji Mulan didn't speak. Ji Mulan had no say in Su Wenyao's business, and Su En always refrained from restraining Su Wenyao, something that bothered the elder Mrs. Su greatly. The Qi family was among those she deemed most suitable. Bai Lian is also taking the college entrance exam this year. Isn't she? Elder Mrs. Su brought up Bai Lian, looking towards Su En. I heard from the Qi family that they can arrange for her to study at the affiliated middle school. The affiliated middle school wasn't one you could simply attend if you wished. The Qi family would expend a great deal of effort to get Bai Lian in. Hearing elder Mrs. Su discussing this matter, Ji Mulan clasped her hands tightly, visibly excited, as she quickly turned to Su-en. Su-en pondered for a moment. "I'll ask alien." Bai Lian didn't have class today, so the reply came quickly. Seeing the response, Su-en wasn't surprised. "Mom, you can tell the Chi family not to bother." "She's not coming?" Elder Mrs. Su was very surprised. But she wasn't really concerned about whether Bai Lian would come or not and didn't ask further, only watching Su-en. "There aren't many days left until the college entrance exam. You two must take good care of Jiue." Su Jiue was the hope of the elder Mrs. Su, boasting even better grades than Su Wenyao had at the time. A top 3 rank is assured. The Su butler chimed in aptly from the side. "May the ancestors bless us." The elder Mrs. Su put down her cane, clasping her hands together, aiming for a national second place. Ji Mulan didn't understand much about the affiliated middle school, but her smile widened when Su Jiue was mentioned. What if she gets the top rank? At the mention of this, elder Mrs. Su gave Ji Mulan a glance, picked up her teacup, took a sip, and remained silent. Taking first place in the national exams isn't so easy. The Beijing top ranker is only around 50th nationally. A second-place rank would also be unprecedented for the Su family. Our highest was when young Master Wan Yao ranked 12th, the butler explained with a smile. This year's top rank will definitely belong to someone from the Liang family. The betting pools have 82% staked on them. Was the Beijing top ranker really so undervalued? And the Liang family? Betting pools? What are these? Ji Mulan lowered her gaze. Yet another realm she hadn't heard of. Downstairs. With cell phone in hand, Su Wenyao sent out a location, then waited by the sidewalk. He was dressed in a black wool overcoat, with a white sweater underneath, a gentle complexion, tall with long legs, and a black scarf around his neck. His eyes scanned through the crowd. He had met Bai Lian's friends before. Ning Xiao and Tang Ming both had the air of top students. This one would likely be the same. Soon, his sight landed on a woman in black thigh-high boots, leather pants, a tight sweater, and draped in a long cotton coat with the zipper undone. Frosted fingertips held a cigarette, wavy hair, and fiery red lips, a kind of decadently beautiful. Despite the overt and bright beauty, she gave off a fragile vibe as if shed shatter with a mere touch. Beside her stood a spirited young man with red hair. Su Wenyao hadn't yet connected these two with Bai Lian's friends. It wasn't until the woman stopped in front of him, looked him up and down, pulled out her phone to compare and then, with a hitch of her lips, said, "You're the friend delivering something to Miss Bai?" Su Wenyao glanced at her then nodded. "Yes, Su Wenyao." He extended his hand, politely intending to shake hands. Sun Chun glanced at the seal on his bag with Jianghu University's logo, then at his clean hands, and smiled without raising her hand. By her side, Hong Mao eagerly grasped Su Wenyao's hand. "Mr. Su, right? Hello, you can just give me the sister stuff." He took the items meant for Bai Lian. Bai Lian's two friends were truly odd. Su Wenyao watched the pair walk away. Screech, a red sports car stopped in front of him, Qi Shuyun stepping out from the driver's seat, removing her sunglasses. "Su Wenyao, are you breaking up with me over that woman just now?" Su Wenyao returned to his senses, looking at Qi Shuyun, Xianxia. At noon, the coffee shop on the first floor of the library wasn't very crowded. When Ming Dongheng entered, Bai Lian was unusually lying on the table, asleep. He lightened his footsteps and stood about 2 meters away from the table, looking at Jiang Fulai hesitantly. Jiang Fulai was sitting beside Bai Lian, looking down at her. After spotting Ming Dongheng, he gently moved his chair and walked towards him. Ming Dongheng, holding his phone, tried to lower his voice as much as possible. "Mr. Su has arrived in Beijing. The butler said you shouldn't go to the research base for the next few days." Jiang Fulai stood by the door, his gaze fixed in the direction of Bai Lian. From this angle he could see her exposed profile. The coffee shop was dimly lit on the inside, and her skin was excessively pale. Her long eyelashes cast a shadow on her eyelids. It was obvious she wasn't sleeping peacefully. Her brows were tightly furrowed. He wondered if she also slept like this at night. Jiang Fulai thought quietly to himself. What fragrance has the butler always used? Jiang Fulai asked Ming Dongheng. Ming Dongheng. The topic changed so suddenly and before he could reply, Jiang Fulai had raised another new topic. Ming Dongheng looked up bewildered. "Should I ask?" "Yes." Jiang Fulai straightened and returned to sit beside Bai Lian. Ming Dongheng curiously looked at Bai Lian. This was the first time he had seen her asleep in public. Though Bai Lian seemed indifferent and careless about everything, deep down, she was extremely observant of these etiquettes. Perhaps he had stared for too long. Ming Dongheng felt a chilling gaze upon him and abruptly looked up, meeting Jianghu Lai's pale but incredibly dangerous eyes. He jerked into alertness. He quickly turned and fled the scene. What business did he have staring at Miss Bai? Mr. Xiaoming, Tang Ming happened to bring over 2 cups of milk tea just then. Seeing Ming Dongheng in this state, he was puzzled. Do you need a doctor? Ming Dongheng wiped the fine sweat from his forehead, expressionless. There's no need. Tang Ming shrugged, and as he turned, he mimicked Ming Dongheng's, there's no need, then muttered softly, so cool. He went inside, saw that Bai Lian was still asleep, and carefully placed the 2 cups of milk tea beside Jianghu Lai. Bai Lian continued to sleep. Ever since her father and brothers had died, she had hardly had a good night's sleep. Her dreams were full of blood-stained hands crawling out of yellow sand, the faces of her father and brothers dying with their eyes open, the Bai family army all dying in battle, alone and unsupported. Ever since she had met Ji Mulan, the person she dreamt about most was her mother. She repeatedly tried to recreate these scenes in her dreams. Ji Heng always thought she was a young person full of energy who didn't need to sleep. Bai Lian moved her hands slightly and slowly opened her eyes. Jianghu Lai's slender finger was pressing on the book, and he looked down at her, his brow slightly furrowed. He spoke in a somewhat low voice, frowning. Did my page-turning wake you? Her vision was blurry for only a second before becoming clear. She propped herself up on the table and sat up, casually rubbing her wrist. No, I'm just a light sleeper. Her voice was as languid as ever. Jianghu Lai, with one hand, tore the plastic wrap off the milk tea straw, thrust the straw into the cup lid, and elegantly pushed the milk tea toward Bai Lian. Clear your head. Meanwhile, Purist Street, in Ji Heng's courtyard, the gate was open. Ji Heng was drawing, and next to him, a woman in her 30s was embroidering. She was working on the hem pattern for the 15th class girls' skirts. There was a large quantity to do, and Ji Heng, worried he might not meet the deadline for the kids, had specifically asked the woman from next door, Mrs. Liu. The door was tapped gently 2 or 3 times. Hello. Ji Heng looked up and saw 2 strangers standing at the door. He put down his pen and got up. Who are you looking for? The slightly older person on the left lifted his head and smiled. Young master, long time no see. Chapter 416. Miss Bai, who has no particular background, 163, second update, _1. The old man looked much older than Ji Heng, with silver hair and a black hat. He must have just arrived in Xianxia, still holding a thick coat in his hands. Ji Heng squinted his eyes, looking at the old man's face, and finally found him in the somewhat blurry memories. Butler Liu. He spoke. Behind him, Mrs. Liu, seeing that Ji Heng had a visitor, put down her needle and stood up uneasily. Uncle Ji, you're busy here, so we'll go home and cook. Once she left, Ji Heng stepped aside to let the 2 in. Butler Liu silently observed the entire courtyard. Ever since he heard about Ji Heng, he had been tirelessly searching for him, aware that Ji Heng might be living poorly, but he hadn't expected it to be this bad. This dilapidated scene was nothing like he had imagined. Ji Heng poured a cup of tea for the 2 and invited them to sit at the stone table, then picked up his smoking pipe. What do you want from me? Back at Yunshao Hotel, Ji Heng had anticipated that they might come looking for him. He hadn't expected that they would find his address in such a short amount of time. Upon hearing this, Butler Liu looked up, pondered for a long while, and said, Do you intend to let your descendants stay here forever? Ji Heng was also Mu Heng. He lit his cigarette, glanced at Butler Liu. He wasn't born in these times. His mother was a concubine of the Mu family, and he was the illegitimate eldest young master of the Mu family. Hearing Butler Liu's words, he fell silent. Ji Mulan had escaped Xianxia for this very reason, while Ji Xiaojun and Ji Xiaorong had never gone against Ji Heng's wishes, always staying in Xianxia dutifully. After a while, Ji Heng spoke. What's happened to the Mu family? Butler Liu wasn't surprised by his sharpness and slowly said, 16 years ago, there was an experiment lab under the snow mountain, and the Mu family had the fortune to join, so the second young master sent the core members, but the mountain collapsed. Ji Heng was taken aback. He hadn't inquired about the Mu family for many years and had thought it was still the same. None returned. Yes, Butler Liu said with a rueful smile. It seems Only one person miraculously survived after being buried for 3 days. As for who it was, that was a secret beyond their clearance. I have 2 sons and a daughter, Jianghu said quietly, slowly lighting his tobacco, taking a deep drag. If you can protect them, then go and contact them. You can rest assured about this matter. I will arrange everything, you needn't say more, Butler Lu said, afraid that Jianghu still harbored some grudges. After all, he had even changed his last name, but he hadn't expected him to agree so readily and decisively. At night, in a private dining room, Xianxia followed nervously behind Ji Xiaojun. Who are we going to meet exactly? I don't know, Ji Xiaojun, with a drawing board under his arm and some paint on his clothes, frowned. Let's talk inside. Upstairs, through a half-open window, someone watched them. Is this the eldest young master's son? The burly man beside Butler Lu frowned as he looked at Ji Xiaojun and Xianxia. The eldest young master was from a reputed family, but his son looked so. Especially that lady. She was quite different compared to the young masters and young ladies back at home. Yes, Butler Lu sighed. Xiaojie, we can't help it. The old master is not well now. He only has this one brother, and he hasn't touched any of the eldest young master's assets over so many years. Even without this incident, that wealth should be managed by the eldest young master. He had anticipated that with Jianghu never having left Xianxia for half his life, even if his descendants could develop further, how far could they really go? But he studied painting. How will he manage to find someone to manage these assets? Xiaojie lowered his head, counting the names. The others left are Ji Xiaorong, Ji Mulan, and Ren Wanxian by Lian. There wasn't a single person with the surname Mu. After he finished all the names, these 2 sons and a daughter, none were into scientific research. He looked at Butler Lu. Should we consider other people? If not painting, then it was designing. Not to mention scientific research. Even finance was beyond them. The butler inwardly despaired. Let's start by teaching Ji Xiaojun how to handle the eldest young master's assets. He remembered when Jianghu left Jiangjing, Ji Xiaojun should have had some memories. His understanding would definitely be different from the others, but the person he married. There's also a granddaughter and a granddaughter-in-law, Xiaojie spoke up. Hearing they were girls, Butler Lu waved his hand dismissively, not concerned, as from the very start, he hadn't even checked up on Bai Lian and the others. Among the entire Mu family, there wasn't a single precedent of a female in scientific research. Chapter 417. Miss Bai, who has no particular background, 163, second update, _2. The next day, Sunday. Sinan Community. Xianxia's hair had grown a few centimeters, and she was squeezing in beside Ji Xiaojun. Who exactly are those 2 people? Xianxia didn't dare to stay outside, especially the old man, who always looked at people with scrutiny. Ji Xiaojun looked at her and repeated the same phrase. It's nothing. Xianxia took a pile of fruit outside. Jianghu and the butler sat on the sofa, occasionally talking about something, while Xiaojie stood next to them, majestically. Take a seat, Xianxia said to Xiaojie, giving an awkward smile. Xiaojie shook his head at her without speaking. He was even cooler than Xiaoming. Xianxia didn't say anything else. She placed the fruit on the table. The butler watched Xianxia do this, and then glanced at Ji Xiaojun cooking in the kitchen, sighing once again. He had not stepped into the kitchen for so many years. These 2 people. They had a long way to go. He whispered to Jianghu, I want to take them to Jiangjing first. Xianxia was too backward, and the butler didn't have much time to stay here. He just hoped to take Ji Xiaojun back to Jiangjing and teach him some things, at least let him manage Jianghu's inheritance well. As he was speaking, the doorbell rang outside. Xianxia's eyes brightened, and she scrambled to open the door. Alien is here. Alien. The butler didn't recall the name. Jianghu, holding his tobacco pipe, sounded rather pleased with himself. My granddaughter. Granddaughter? The butler recalled what Xiaojie had mentioned about the 2 girls. Outside the door, Bai Lian had just returned from the library, holding her cell phone in one hand and her backpack in the other, talking with Jianghu Lai. Jianghu Lai invited her to come over in the afternoon and, by the way, take a look at the laboratory. Bai Lian hadn't visited his small laboratory in a long while, so she didn't refuse. Okay. She pressed the doorbell with the hand carrying her backpack. Jianghu Lai continued speaking leisurely on the other end of the phone. Then you'll have to call me after you've eaten. He specifically urged her, otherwise Bai Lian would just send him a one. Sure, I'll call. As Bai Lian was speaking, Xianxia had just opened the door in time to hear what Bai Lian said, and she was taken aback. Call what? Remembering Bai Lian's previous fearless attitude, Xianxia was shocked and lowered her voice. Alien, don't go getting into fights like that, Boss Lu. Bai Lian. She hung up the phone emphatically and looked up at Xianxia obediently. Okay. Inside the living room, Xiaojia, naturally, had heard Xianxia's words. He glanced at Xianxia but didn't say anything, his gaze curiously turning to Bai Lian. She was dressed in a white sweatshirt, its collar a brown crossneck embroidered with faux frog closures, a lazy black cat stitched on the left chest, and auspicious patterns on both sleeves. Her jet black hair was entirely coiled up, held by two wooden hairpins slantingly inserted at the back of her head. Grandpa, Bai Lian lowered her eyes and greeted Jianghu respectfully. Jianghu nodded with his tobacco pipe in hand, not introducing the butler to her. If Jianghu didn't say anything, Bai Lian also wouldn't ask. Seeing Bai Lian's arrival, the butler swallowed the words he was about to say and started chatting idly with Jianghu. Bai Lian found a spot on the carpet to sit and placed her backpack on the coffee table. She lazily pulled out a chemistry practice book from the unzipped bag and began working on it. Xiaojia and the butler cast a glance after hearing Xianxing's voice, their eyes catching the title of Bai Lian's book, a basic chemistry textbook. The butler asked Xianxing a few questions on the side. Xianxing replied with an embarrassed smile. During the lunch, hardly anyone spoke. Bai Lian sat on her chair, eating with her head bowed. The butler looked at her posture and was quite surprised. He didn't expect that in the entire Ji family, aside from Jianghu, it was Bai Lian who had mastered the etiquette thoroughly. He was momentarily amazed but didn't dwell on it too much, as he had already heard that Bai Lian was now living with Jianghu. That wasn't unexpected then. After the meal, Bai Lian made a call to Jianghu Lai before leaving. Grandpa, uncle, auntie, Bai Lian picked up her backpack and waved to them. I'll be leaving first. She was very polite. Xianxing, carrying a glass of milk, saw her out. Where is she going? The butler, prompted by her etiquette, asked an additional question. She must be going to the library, Xianxing said with unexpected pride when talking about Bai Lian. Alien is a very good student, she? The butler, naturally recalling the basic questions from before, gave Xianxing a polite nod, extremely courteous. That's very nice, you have a wonderful niece. They had met many geniuses in Jianghu over the years. In the days when the Mu family was powerful, there were elite members who had access to the core experimental labs. As for Xianxing's mention of good grades, the butler just smiled. Jianghu Lai's residence. Master Su. Ming Dongheng poured a cup of tea for the man on the sofa. The man on the sofa had bold and prominent features and always had a faint smile on his face. He leaned back in his chair, looking around. Xiaoming, has young Master Jiang gone to the lab again? No. Ming Dongheng said with a cool expression. Look at you, Su Nanjing smiled. Being so serious for what reason? After half a year. Have you grown distant from your brothers? You are speaking word by word, who did you learn that from? Right, Su Nanjing remembered something. The UFC white vest, isn't it around here? The news of an Asian joining Dongwu and entering UFC had caused a sensation 2 months ago. Upon mentioning this, Ming Dongheng's spirit lifted. Yes, Mr. Bai occasionally fights private bouts in the arena. After exchanging a few words without seeing Jianghu Lai, Su Nanjing asked, where on earth is he? Ming Dongheng looked at Su Nanjing. The young master went to pick someone up. Su Nanjing, with a lazy stretch of his legs on the coffee table upon hearing this, fiddled with his earring. Wait, what did you say? Pick someone up? What do those 2 words have to do with Jianghu Lai? Is it about killing someone or picking someone up? He looked at Ming Dongheng's expression and a person slowly surfaced in his mind. Do you mean he went to pick up that, the Bai girl? Ming Dongheng glanced at Su Nanjing but didn't speak. The implication was clear. Su Nanjing raised his hand. He had heard of Bai Lian too, and had even discussed her with his mother, aware of the basic situation. She was from Xianxia, and Jianghu Lai had not gotten her into the affiliated high school. He originally thought Jianghu Lai would keep her hidden a while longer. Yet now it seemed they were about to meet. Su Nanjing broadcasted live to his mother. About to see her soon. Mother, the girl is from Xianxia, be polite to her, and don't frighten her with that attitude of yours. Su Nanjing shrugged. His mother had cautioned him repeatedly last night, and he too was curious, what kind of person she was after all. He couldn't even imagine what Jiang Fulai picking someone up would look like. Just thinking about it gave him chills. Are you sure she's from Xianxia? Su Nanjing, tapping his fingers on his knee and sitting up straighter, became much more serious, anticipating that Jiang Fulai was indeed serious. Ming Dongheng nodded. Miss Bai is at Xianxia No. 1 High School. Su Nanjing pondered. Seeing Jiang Fulai's attitude now, it indeed seemed like a difficult situation. It looked like his mother's concerns were justified. It was truly going to be a bit of effort. He thought for a moment, then took out his phone again. Su Nanjing. Mom, how about we sneak someone into our lab? This girl was a no-background wallflower, the sort that if you didn't pay attention, would be swallowed whole by those people, bones and all. As he was thinking, the sound of brakes came from outside. Chapter 418. 164 Blood Draw. Well-behaved alien, first update. Underscore 1. Su Nanjing hadn't reacted yet when Ming Dongheng beside him put down what he was doing and started to walk outside. Is this Jiang Fulai and the others are back? Su Nanjing sat up straight, ignoring the frequent messages in the small Jiangjing WeChat group, and stared intently at the gate, wanting to see which girl could tame such a bewitching man. This statement wasn't false. Due to the relationship between their mothers, he had known Jiang Fulai since childhood. After his family's incident, Jiang Fulai had become cold and aloof. Even with their close relationship from growing up together, it took Su Nanjing a long time to gain Jiang Fulai's trust. Their type of families were naturally suspicious. Outside the door, two figures walked in one after the other. The one in front was a tall and slender girl wearing a white hoodie with a touch of ancient style. Her hair was pure black, all pinned up with plain hairpins, her skin fair, lazy yet elegant. She held a phone in her hand, idly swiping the screen as she looked down. Jiang Fulai, delayed by parking, slowly fell behind her. He casually carried a black backpack with one hand and held the car keys with the other. After entering, he carelessly placed the keys on the bar by the entrance. Su Nanjing came back to his senses. He stood up with a hint of seriousness in his voice. Brother Jiang. Jiang Fulai looked up slightly. His demeanor was always cool, his nobility tinged with pride, and his shallow light phoenix eyes were especially cold. He might possess a mind that crushes everyone else's. In that circle in Jiangjing, the young men and ladies of his generation acted like mice in the presence of a cat when they saw him. Seeing Su Nanjing, he wasn't surprised and casually introduced him to Bai Lian. This is Su Nanjing. Bai Lian then looked up, greeting him. Hello. She had a face that could astonish anyone, perfect from every angle. Hello. When her apricot eyes met his, what was an ordinary yet beautifully serene face made Su Nanjing unexplainably feel like he had been targeted by a giant beast. Jiang He is upstairs. Jiang Fulai wanted to take Bai Lian to find Jiang He upstairs. However, Bai Lian raised her hand to take the backpack from him. I'll go by myself. As she walked upstairs with a languid air, Jiang Fulai stood at the foot of the stairs watching her ascend. Ming Dongheng had already gone back to prepare tea to take upstairs. Clearly, she was very familiar with this place and also with Jiang He and the others. It dawned on Su Nanjing late that the backpack Jiang Fulai was holding was hers. Jiang Fulai sat on the couch with his sleeves rolled up as the family doctor carefully took his blood. MTR Laboratory was in a hurry, so the doctor's actions were quick and decisive. Across from him, Su Nanjing didn't dare to kick his feet up onto the coffee table again. He leaned on the couch, looking down at his phone at one of the Jiangjing groups. Sun Feng. Haven't seen young Master Jiang all year it seems. Su Nanjing. You can see him if you go to Jiang Garden. Sun Feng. Shocked. I'm waiting for you to take me there. Xia Shiming. At Su Nanjing, are you coming to tonight's event? All motorbikes and beauties. Su Nanjing. Can't make it, I'm in Xianxia. Everyone in the group was a friend of Su Nanjing. Just take anyone from the group, and they were all well-known second-generation figures from the top circles of Jiangjing, with deep family backgrounds, but none could compare to the Jiang family. A family that had been handed down for 1,000 years, spanning 3 realms, had produced numerous famous individuals. Their influence was something other families could not catch up with. After sending the messages, Su Nanjing turned to send one to his mother. Prayer hands. I dare not take a photo, not at all. I'm planning to stay in Xianxia for a while longer. Then, he sent another message to the small 4-person group. Panda shock. JPG. When the doctor finished drawing blood and had another empty tube in hand, he hesitated slightly. Young Master Jiang, should we take another tube? Su Nanjing snapped back to reality, remembering that the butler had given him 2 tubes. He sat up and looked towards Jianghu Lai. Jianghu Lai, with his long fingers carelessly pressing down on his arm, casually threw away the swab after waiting a moment, and leisurely rolled down his sleeve. Just take mine, he said, holding out his hand for the blood tube, then got up and walked upstairs. After Jianghu Lai went upstairs, Su Nanjing grabbed Ming Dongheng and sternly interrogated him about Bai Lian. He was carrying Miss Bei's backpack just now, wasn't he? Ming Dongheng, not a man of many words, gave Su Nanjing a name, Bai Lian. Having just met Bai Lian, his curiosity deepened even more. Chapter 419. 164 Blood Draw. Well-behaved alien, first update. _2. Ming Dongheng still acted cool, just nodding and giving Su Nanjing a look that said, "You're really dumb," and, "What's so surprising about that?" Jiang He's room. His desk was too small, so when Jianghu Lai entered, Bai Lian casually sat on his carpet, flipping through the review in her hand. Getting ready to head to the lab later. Jianghu Lai squatted beside her with the blood draw kit, watching her leaf through the review. After finishing the page of data, Bai Lian slowly flipped to the next page without raising her head. "What are you doing? Would you mind a blood draw?" Jianghu Lai asked, tilting his head slightly, his eyelashes drooping as he showed her the kit in his hand, and added, "To check a routine blood panel?" "A routine blood panel?" Bai Lian pressed her hand on the review, looking towards Jianghu Lai. Her eyes were extremely dark, like the depths of a heavily fogged abyss, where one could easily get trapped once fallen in. "Okay, will you do it?" About 2 minutes later, Bai Lian agreed. Jianghu Lai nodded. Bai Lian paused and then unhurriedly rolled up her left sleeve, revealing her wrist and elbow, her wrist shimmering with the cold light of silver iridium. Her skin was pale, and her wrist unusually slender. The veins on her wrist were plainly visible. Jianghu Lai looked down, his slender fingertips pinching the needle, the vein right before his eyes. He had learned this. 3 minutes later, his cool face bore a trace of defeat. "I'll get a doctor to come up." He set down the needle. The next day. Monday. Jianghu Lai had a routine group meeting. Grandma Ning Xiao wasn't feeling well, so they didn't work on problems together, and the group of teenagers all went their separate ways. Wang Qi was wailing as he leaned on Tang Ming's shoulder. "Why another test? Tang Ming, how exactly do you study?" With Bai Lian's and Ning Xiao's nearly supernatural memory, he didn't wish to ask. "I just study," Tang Ming said succinctly. Next to him, Pu Xiaohan tilted her head. "Tang Ming, you're acting weird today." Wang Qi stared for a long while, then exclaimed in horror, "Did you have a stroke?" "Tang Ming." Yang Lin walked to the right of Bai Lian, heading towards the milk tea shop after exiting the school gates. At the intersection, a cool motorbike was parked. Su Nanjing, tall and handsome with a sunshine-like demeanor, stood out from the surrounding students with his noble air and distinguished appearance. His face always wore a smile, and with a helmet in hand, he saw Bai Lian and raised his hand. "Hi." The passing students all turned to look this way. Seeing the motorbike, Bai Lian stopped and walked towards him. "I forgot to give you this yesterday," Su Nanjing said, extending his hand to hand Bai Lian a paper bag hanging from the handlebars. Bai Lian took it. It was full of unsealed books. "Comprehensive questions for senior year," Su Nanjing said, stepping onto the motorbike. Bai Lian looked up. Her persona at school was always obedient, "Thank you." Over the years, Su Nanjing had never met anyone quite like Bai Lian. Too well-behaved, seemingly without any distinct personality traits, yet somehow different from yesterday. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, and at that moment didn't dare to suggest taking Bai Lian out to be seen at a club. He just put on his helmet. "No problem, do well on them, I'm off, little sister." With a roar, the motorbike sped away. Not far off, a classmate from Class 8 walking with Ren Wanxian nudged her. "Who is the school beauty talking to?" "I don't know," Ran Wanxian had not been having an easy time recently. Ran Qian was still implicated by Secretary Zhou. This year at the committee election, Ran Qian's term had expired, and many from Class 8 knew about it. Their attitude towards her was no longer as respectful as before. Since when did Xianxia have such a rich street racer? Ran Wanxian didn't know much about motorbikes. What? That bike, it must cost $1 million, Chenju narrowed his eyes, watching the bike drive away. And that license plate? It didn't seem to be from Xianxia. Purist Street. Xiaojie parked the car and frowned. Living here is really inconvenient for them. The alley where Jianghu lived was narrow and cars couldn't drive in. Every time one had to walk a distance to get there. The butler got out from the back seat. As the two of them walked towards Jianghu's home, as soon as they entered Purist Street, they saw a girl wearing a school uniform talking to two boys dressed in flashy clothes at the entrance of a small store not far away. One with yellow hair. One with red hair. Xiaojie glanced casually and noticed the girl wearing a Xianxia No. 1 middle school uniform, her face partially visible with a plain hairpin shining brightly behind her head. Is that? Such a distinct personal style, he quickly recognized her as Bai Lian. The butler retracted his gaze and frowned slightly. It's her. But the two of them were not interested. They were here for Jianghu's yard. When Bai Lian returned with the exercises Xiaowu had brought back from Jianghu, Jianghu was talking to the butler. Xiaojie stood respectfully behind the butler. Grandpa, Bai Lian entered, closed the door behind her, and greeted Jianghu. Jianghu, holding his smoking pipe, unusually not embroidering, finally relaxed a bit when he saw Bai Lian return. You didn't stay to do problems today? As soon as Bai Lian returned, the butler stopped talking and lowered his head to drink his tea. Everyone had matters to attend to, replied Bai Lian succinctly. Knowing that Jianghu must be discussing something important, she didn't disturb them anymore and went back to her room to put down her backpack and take out the problems Su Nanjing and Su Wanyao had brought her. On her cell phone, Dean Jian had sent a message. Do you have an idea for your new song? Bai Lian took out the abridged score and briefly tried it on the guzheng. Jianghu, seeing Bai Lian return, went to the kitchen to get her a plate of fruit to take over. He always placed Bai Lian's needs first. The butler was speaking with him about important matters, and this attitude from Jianghu made him purse his lips slightly. Xiaojie, noticing this behind him, quickly stepped forward to take the plate from Jianghu's hands. I'll take it in for you. He was quick, and by the time Jianghu reacted, Xiaojie was already knocking on Bai Lian's door with the plate. 3 polite knocks. After receiving permission, Xiaojie went in, aware this should be Bai Lian's room. He didn't look around much, just placed the plate on the edge of Bai Lian's desk. Thank you, Bai Lian said, her pen pausing on a stroke of the character 4, as she looked up slightly. Very polite. No need to be polite. Is there anything else you need? I'll bring it all in together, so Jianghu doesn't have to keep worrying. As Xiaojie spoke, his gaze swept over the items on her desk. Bai Lian's desk was cluttered with many items, yet everything was neatly arranged. A blue crystal glass bottle, a silver pendulum, a guzheng beside them, and even 3 lighters scattered in a corner. To the left were piles of white paper books. Xiaojie guessed they might be the novels that middle school students liked, with the covers ripped off by her. Further down, Bai Lian held a pen, writing something akin to the 4 great standards, something that seemed like numbers but wasn't quite. He didn't understand what she was doing and didn't figure it out. Bai Lian lowered her head and finished writing the small character 4. No, that's all. All right, Xiaojie retracted his gaze and left, closing the door behind him. He silently thought that the 45 she wrote was quite neat. Although Shen Qing always said her niece was very diligent in her studies, he couldn't see that now. I am going to take your eldest son back to Jianghu, the butler continued the earlier conversation. The conditions here are not suitable, and we need him to change his surname back to Mu. Jianghu struck a match, lit his cigarette, and flicked his hand to extinguish the flame. What about his safety? That was his only concern. The butler tapped his fingers lightly on the stone table, his age showing. You can rest assured about that too. Jianghu remained silent then, blowing out smoke rings, for nearly 10 minutes before finally he spoke again. I understand. Seeing he finally relented, the butler relaxed. Then please talk to him. We will depart for Jianghu in a few days, he said as he stood up to bid goodbye to Jianghu. After the two left, Xiaojie asked, we're not observing further, Are we certain about taking this Ji Xiaojun back with us? The butler squinted. You just had contact with Bai Lian. What do you think of her? Chapter 420. 165 Incident. The Arrogant Su Nanjing. Second update. _1. Xiaojie pondered briefly, recalling everything he had just seen. Then he hesitated before speaking. I don't know what she's doing. Those neat numbers, he recognized each one individually, but when they were together, he couldn't recognize any of them. He saw Bai Lian wearing a middle school uniform, so she must be learning middle school content, but what she wrote down seemed so strange and bizarre. The butler's tone was heavy. Ji Xiaojun received education from the Mu family when he was young. Taking him back won't cause any slip-ups. We've lingered in Xianxia for too long. The butler felt there was no longer any need for him to stay here. The result of this trip was unexpected yet within reason. Such a pity. Xiaojie looked back at Ji Heng's brightly lit yard. All three of Ji Heng's children, their skills were only prominent in the arts. The situation in Jianghu was just too complicated. Meanwhile, Yang Lin had just finished her part-time job. She walked towards the tube building with her head down and backpack in hand, when a hesitant voice came from ahead. Lin. That voice. Yang Lin suddenly looked up to see a middle-aged woman in a plaid shirt looking hesitantly at her from 3 meters away. Is it really you? The middle-aged woman subconsciously tucked her hair behind her ear. After all these years, are you doing well? Yang Lin slowly lowered her head, noticing the middle-aged woman holding the hand of a boy about 7 or 8 years old. She stared at the boy. The middle-aged woman quickly pulled the boy behind her. This is also your brother. Weirdo. The boy poked his head out from behind the woman and made a face at Yang Lin. She's not my sister. Yang Lin's pitch-black eyes stared from behind her thick hair at the pair in front of her. Why are you two walking so fast? A man's thick voice sounded. The boy ran towards him. Dad! Ah, my precious son. Yang Lin didn't look at the woman again and started walking forward. Soon, a conversation could be heard behind her. Is that your ex-husband's daughter? Look, we just moved back, and there's no space for her at our place. You're not thinking of bringing her back for me to take care of, are you? The man's voice was wary. The woman spoke meekly. I didn't think that. Well, you'd better not. With a father like that, she can't be much good. Don't even think about letting her come to our house. What if she spoils Shanshan and Tianbao? Yang Lin quickened her pace and soon returned to the tube building. The stairs were cluttered with a pile of junk and trash. 4th floor. On the right, an old lady gently opened a door a crack and whispered to her, Your father seems to have come back. The next day. Bai Lian noticed Jiang Fulai's blue car parked at the entrance to Purist Street early in the morning. What's this? She saw a small thermos next to the driver's seat. Jiang Fulai waited until she was seated before starting the car, his demeanor cool and voice soft. It's made by the chef. I brought a bowl for you as well. Bai Lian played her English reading out loud and opened the thermos to take a sniff. The faint scent of medicinal herbs. She identified the blood-nourishing ingredients. Her pale fingers paused at the mouth of the thermos. Bai Lian looked hesitantly at Jiang Fulai to her left. Blood tonics? Just for that little bit of blood? Was it necessary to replenish? The traffic light turned red, and Jiang Fulai stopped the car, turning his head with a sharp look in his eyes. What? Nothing. Bai Lian withdrew her gaze, recalling that Jiang Fulai seemed to have had blood drawn as well. She sipped the soup leisurely, and everything started making sense. Upon reaching the school, Bai Lian asked him to stop at the intersection next to the bus station. She waited for Jiang Fulai's car to leave before leisurely walking towards the school. She arrived at her class, and not many people had come, including her desk mate and Ning Xiao. Bai Lian put down her backpack and sat down on the chair, noting that her phone was lit up inside the bag. She picked it up to check. It was a message from Xiaowu about someone who lived below Yang Lin. Her father is back. 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Tick-tock. In the pitch-black bathroom, Yang Lin slowly regained consciousness, her eyes a bit blurry. The bathroom door wasn't tightly closed. She could see the faint light outside and hear Yang Jianpain on a phone call. What, 30,000? Wasn't it 30,000 7 years ago? All right then, come and pick up the person right away. Yang Lin suddenly became fully alert. 30,000? Pick up the person? She opened her eyes, steadied herself on the wash basin, and slowly stood up, supporting her entire bodice strength to walk outside. Outside, the place was in disarray. Young Jianpain finished the call, and seeing her coming out, he crushed a beer can. What about your homeroom teacher? Isn't she always sponsoring you? Why not ask her for living expenses? Chapter 421. 165 Incident. The Arrogant Su Nanjing, Second Update, _2. Yang Lin suddenly laughed. She spoke with a hoarse voice. Don't go looking for Teacher Lu, I still have 2,000 in my card, I'll withdraw it for you. Hurry up and go. Young Jianpain slammed the beer can onto her head, looking at her emotionless face, the excitement in his eyes, fueled by alcohol, began to spread. You're a monster too. Not even capable of crying. Yang Lin lowered her head, gazing at the lily crushed under Young Jianpain's foot. It was her lily, she thought. Auntie Zhang always saved the best for her, and now it was being trampled underfoot. With her head covered in fresh blood, she slowly opened the door and went out. Across the way, the old lady cracked her door open to watch her, opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end, she didn't. Yang Lin took back her gaze, knowing what the old lady wanted to say. Everything will be better when you grow up. That's what everyone kept telling her. When she was 9, that's what the police told her. But how old did one have to be considered grown up? She made her way slowly down the stairs. She was now 19 years old. She had been looking forward to growing up since she was 5. Was 19 grown up enough? But why couldn't she see the end of the road? She had walked so far, endured so much suffering, never been afraid. She was only afraid she wouldn't reach the end of this road. People on the street stared at her strangely. Some even asked if she needed to call the police, if she needed to go to the hospital. But Yang Lin ignored them all. Her bangs were matted with blood and stuck to her forehead, and with the blood loss, her vision was beginning to blur. Yang Lin reached the street corner, mechanically withdrew the money. All savings from her part-time jobs for her college education. She bought a bottle of liquor and then went to a pharmacy to purchase some sleeping pills. The clerk looked at her head, wanting to say something, but Yang Lin walked away. Once outside, she calmly opened the bottle and stuffed the pills into it. Finally, she came to a convenience store and bought a knife. With the knife in hand and clutching the bottle of liquor, she walked step by step toward the tube building. Inside Ji Heng's courtyard, Ji Xiaojun had to leave for Beijing earlier today, and Ji Heng, taking advantage of Bai Lian's school hours, sent her a message. The butler was telling Ji Xiaojun and Shen Qing what to watch out for. Ji Xiaojun was somewhat startled. But my students. At a time like this, you shouldn't be worrying about that. I will take care of it for you, Xiaojie interjected with implied meaning. The butler bowed his head, slowly and methodically sipping his tea. This tea. He paused for a moment. This tea should be the same as he remembered, served by the old master of the Mu family in its heyday to him as a reward. The butler clearly remembered this familiar taste. Where did this tea come from? He suddenly looked up. Shen Qing glanced over. It should be from Xiaojiang. Xiaojiang. It was the butler's first time hearing this name. Who is he? It's aliens. Shen Qing hesitated briefly. What exactly was Jiang Fulai's relation to them? Beside him, Ji Heng blew out a ring of smoke. His demeanor very detached. Alien's friend. Alien must be Bai Lian, the butler thought in surprise. Bai Lian had friends like that? He looked down at his cup of tea. Or perhaps there was something wrong with his taste. At 6:30, Xiao Jie spoke up. We should be leaving. If we're any later, we won't make the flight tomorrow. Upon hearing the departure, Shen Qing couldn't help but grip Ji Xian's sleeve, and the group made their way outside Purist Street, where Ji Heng smoked in silence, without speaking. Ji Xiaojun didn't inform the Ren family about his departure. Of course, even if he had, there's no guarantee they would have come. A silver commercial van was parked at the street corner. Shen Qing looked towards the bus stop, murmuring softly, "Why hasn't Alien returned yet?" The butler glanced at Shen Qing and Ji Xiaojun. He knew how dearly they regarded Bai Lian as their own child and advised them, "Don't tell her about your trip to Jianghu for now." For the butler, taking them to Jianghu was already a stretch. It would be troublesome if Bai Lian found out and wanted to join. Thinking of how much coaching these two would require for Jianghu, the butler felt a headache coming on. A taxi slowly came to a stop on the opposite side. Bai Lian, who usually waited for the number 12 bus, had uncharacteristically taken a taxi back upon hearing of Ji Xian's departure. She was still in her blue and white school uniform. Only holding her phone, her slender figure emerged onto the long street, her eyes downcast, exuding a lethargic and serene charm, both obedient and a bit mysterious. The street was not crowded with cars, but there were quite a few people out for an evening walk. Those who saw Bai Lian smiled and greeted her. She had only been on Purist Street for half a year, yet she was known by more people than Jianghu. Xianxia's expression also instantly softened. Alien! Grandpa, aunt, Bai Lian returned without a backpack and greeted them one by one. Finally, she turned to Ji Xiaojun and asked casually, Uncle, why are you suddenly leaving? The butler coughed softly. Ji Xiaojun weighed his thoughts for a moment, then touched Bai Lian's hair, his eyes deep. For the second half of the year. I will explain it to you properly then. The second half of the year? Xiaojie glanced at Ji Xiaojun, doubting half a year's time would be sufficient. He thought Ji Xiaojun intended to bring Bai Lian to Jianghu by his own means in the latter half of the year. Bai Lian lowered her lashes, her voice calm. Is it safe? Don't worry. Ji Xiaojun tugged at the corner of his lips. He had too much in Xianxia to let go. Leaving suddenly was hard, but he looked at Jianghu. He narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled. There won't be any problems. We should go, Xiaojie reminded politely. The group boarded the vehicle. As long as safety was assured, Bai Lian's phone chimed. She lazily raised her hand to bid farewell to Xianxia and the other, swiping open her lock screen as she did. It was that person from before. She's taken a knife upstairs. Bai Lian's expression tightened. Yang Lin's father had returned a few times, but there were no issues before, and she had hoped this time would be no different. She typed quickly, Go up and check, it'll be right there. She backed out of the messaging app to book a ride. Xiaowu and Xiaoqi weren't around. Beside her, Xiaojie was sitting in the driver's seat, just about to start the engine and drive away, when from the direction of Qingshui Bridge, the roaring sound of a sports car engine approached. Xiaojie instinctively looked up. Seeing a flamboyant red sports car ahead, he narrowed his eyes, waiting for it to drive off first. However, it was rare to see such high-end cars in Xianxia. As he was contemplating, the car screeched to a halt, arriving arrogantly in front of Bai Lian. The car window rolled down, and Su Nanjing's hand was lazily resting on the steering wheel. He smiled at Bai Lian. Sister Bai Lian, what are you doing here? Chapter 422. 166 Resolved. A few bigwigs coming to Xianxia under her one. Bai Lian bowed her head. No one accepted her ride request on the ride-hailing app. Clutching her phone, her right hand resting on the car window and head slightly lowered, the night wind tousled her hair as she spoke amidst Su Nanjing's astonished gaze. Are you busy right now? Her drooping brows and eyes were wrapped in cold indifference. Su Nanjing replied subconsciously. No. Good. Bai Lian opened the passenger door, sat in the seat, and buckled her seatbelt, her fingers gripping it so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Please take me to a place, thank you. At that tone of voice, Su Nanjing subconsciously pressed down on the gas pedal. Bai Lian was in a hurry. She sent a message to Jianghu on WeChat and then pulled up Yang Lin's address. Purist Street intersection. In the silver business car, Xiaojie watched the red sports car with a CML Club sticker race away, noting how Bai Lian got into the car. He couldn't help but glance at Jianghu standing outside, who had been frowning but seemed to relax considerably after a look at his phone. Where is she going so late? Xiaojie started the car while looking at the rear-view mirror. Xianxia was also open-mouthed. It was her first time seeing such a sports car in Xianxia. Hearing Xiaojie's words, she said, She must be going to study, I guess. Besides studying, Xianxia didn't know what else Bai Lian could be doing. After all, Bai Lian used to study in the library until it closed every day before going home. Going to study in a sports car this late? Both the butler and Xiaojie were surprised, feeling that the whole family seemed to inexplicably trust Bai Lian. However, it wasn't strange, if it wasn't for that night seeing Bai Lian talking to two unfamiliar thugs. The butler would also think Bai Lian was just a beautiful bookworm. Neither asked further, and the butler merely mentioned, It's not safe for a girl to be out so late. Xianxia thought of Bai Lian lifting the dean's heavy 28-inch suitcase with one hand, a task difficult for two people to manage, and fell silent. West of the city. Yang Lin's home was 2 streets behind the school. This area was dirty, messy, and poor. Xianxia's development almost didn't touch this place. Street vendors dotted the road, and the streets were littered with waste and garbage. Approaching 7 o'clock. The fiery red sports car stopped at the entrance of the street, and Bai Lian got out of the car, asked someone for directions, and walked down an alley without lights. Hey! Su Nanjing hurriedly sent a message to Jianghu Lai, then chased after her. His flamboyant brows and eyes throbbed strenuously. What are you doing here? If anything happened here, he could only compensate Jianghu with his life. Bai Lian stood in front of a tube building, comparing it to the photo on her phone before lifting her eyes, the light from the building reflecting in her gaze, her voice cool, looking for someone. 4th floor. Yang Jianpain had drunk 2 glasses of white liquor and was already fast asleep. Yang Lin sat in her room. She hadn't turned on the lights, just sitting on the floor, the moonlight streaming in through the window, coldly lighting the dagger in her hands that glinted ominously. She only stepped out when there were no sounds from outside, looking at Yang Jianpain, who was sleeping on the sofa. She was good at biology. With the knife, she gently traced above Yang Jianpain's collar, where the heart was located. Bang! The door was forced open. Yang Lin's knife was pressed against Yang Jianpain's heart, seemingly feeling the wild beats of his heart, when she instinctively looked toward the door. Her vision was greatly impaired due to serious injuries. She could hardly see clearly anymore, only sensing a shadow looming over her. Then, a hand that could be described as warm seized her right hand. "Classmate, give me the knife," she heard the other person's gentle voice. "Your hand can be used to do many more things in the future." Bai Lian pulled the knife from Yang Lin's hand. She was already too late to stop Xianxia's. Yang Lin seemed to recognize the person in front of her, the warmth on her hand similar to what she had felt before. She let go of the knife, her face deathly pale. She had been sober under the belief that she would die, but as her spirit relaxed, she fainted entirely. Bai Lian caught her, then turned her head to look at Su Nanjing, who had just entered. "Hurry and take her to the hospital." Su Nanjing scanned the surroundings, his smile fading as he saw she had no intention of leaving. With a grave voice he said, "Come with me." Bai Lian lazily twirled the knife in her hand and kicked away a beer can at her feet before bending over to pick up the lilies that had been stepped on next to the sofa. She gently blew off the dust and straightened the bent petals. "Does your car have room for a 3rd person?" "Don't worry," she turned around, staring at Yang Jianpain lying on the sofa. "I'm making a call to the police." She dialed 110. In the dimly lit hall, Yang Jianpain was jolted awake by a bucket of cold water. As he watched warily, he saw the beautiful girl in a school uniform standing before him. Chapter 423. 166 Resolved. A few bigwigs coming to Xianxia_2. Awake! Bai Lian's grip loosened, and the steel wash basin dropped to the ground with a clang. She slowly bent over, school uniform still stained with Yang Lin's not yet dry blood, a smile tracing her lips. Yang Jianpain was used to throwing his weight around, and with a flick of his hand, he aimed to throw something at Bai Lian. But she blocked it effortlessly with 2 fingers. In Yang Jianpain's terrified gaze, she smiled faintly, seized him by the neck, and lifted him up. "How could there be someone like you here?" Then, casually tossing him to the ground, Yang Jianpain's forehead glistened with cold sweat as he shakily got up from the floor. Bai Lian advanced, driving him step by step to the door with the tip of her knife. Her smile was tender, and she seemingly exerted no considerable effort, with the knife point never actually touching Yang Jianpain's body. With each step he took backwards, the terror in his eyes intensified. It ended at the top of the staircase. Bai Lian looked at the stairs behind him, slowly dragged the knife up his face with the point ending on his eyeball. "Did your desk mate accidentally fall from here before?" Yang Jianpain's eyes suddenly widened. Amidst the chaos of the western city's tube-building area, Jianghu Lai arrived to find Bai Lian standing under the sole streetlight. She hung her head slightly, the moonlight casting a leisurely glow as she leaned against the streetlight with a lily tucked in her pocket and fiddling with a lighter in her hand, her cold pale fingers pressing it, a crimson flame dancing to life. Her blue and white school uniform was open, bearing stains of still wet blood. Jianghu Lai approached without a hint of a smile on his lips, closing the car door and striding over. With light and shadow interwoven beneath the moonlight, The dark fabric of his clothes fluttered in the wind. His presence sharp and fierce like the chilling light of a knife's edge. Ah! Bai Lian looked up, her fingers halting. Wait, this is Yang Lin's blood. She spoke. Jiang Fulai pursed his lips, nodded his head after confirming. Su Nanjing is at the hospital. I've called the police. Bai Lian lifted her head. They haven't arrived yet. I'll wait a while longer. No need. Jiang Fulai glanced coolly over her shoulder and reached out to take the lighter from her hand. Someone will take care of the remaining matters. Bai Lian stared at her lighter. Oh, she uttered. Xianxia's best hospital was somewhat far from where Yang Lin was. Crossing the ring road and then through Wallow Avenue. Luckily there was no traffic jam at this hour. When Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai arrived, the young master of the Jiang family was getting scolded by the attending physician. She's malnourished and got such severe injuries, yet you didn't bring her in time, we almost couldn't save her. No one had ever scolded the esteemed young master like that, apart from Jiang Fulai. He clenched his cigarette, glanced at the emergency room with a laugh. He remembered. Bai Lian was negotiating with the doctors. Out in the hallway, Su Nanjing took a drag of his cigarette, and the nurse glanced at him, daring not to stop him. Who is that? He cocked his head towards Jiang Fulai. Jiang Fulai, looking in Bai Lian's direction, slowly said, her classmate. Su Nanjing raised an eyebrow. Understood. Fine. Bai Lian, a mere classmate, managed to break the young master Jiang's principle of loving experiments. After Bai Lian and Jiang Fulai left, Su Nanjing took out his phone and snapped a photo of their retreating figures, sending it to his mother. Who is that next to you? Su Nanjing. Sister Bai Lian. It only took 2 days for Su Nanjing to call Bai Lian's sister fluently. From across the screen, Su Nanjing's mother was obviously surprised. She's wearing a school uniform, looks very well behaved. Su Nanjing thought for a while. She studies every day. This was what Ming Dongheng had said. He mentioned he had never seen someone who loved studying more than Bai Lian. Su Nanjing arranged for a caregiver to look after Yang Lin. Yang Lin didn't wake up until the afternoon of the next day. Su Nanjing booked a private room with its own reception area. When Bai Lian arrived, he was sitting in the outside living room, holding a piece of paper, leg resting on the coffee table, with the deputy director by his side. How did you fall down the stairs? Su Nanjing gave the deputy director a polite smile. Do you need me to reenact it, or are you suspecting me? The deputy director wiped the sweat from his forehead. This young master looked friendly, but dealing with him felt even more pressured than dealing with Chief Chen. Not at all, he laughed nervously. Yang Jianpain had a history of previous occurrences, and now he was also suspected of human trafficking. So the deputy was just following up as a matter of routine. People are still blatantly human trafficking these days. Su Nanjing tossed the paper onto the table, having always been bold and brash. What has Chen Yongkuan been doing for the past half a year? This continued until Bai Lian entered. Su Nanjing put away his half-amused expression, looked up, gave Bai Lian a smile, and also greeted Pu Xiaohan, who was with her. Chapter 424. 166 Resolved. A few bigwigs coming to Xianxia_3. Your classmate is so cool, didn't say a word, didn't eat anything, Su Nanjing concluded with a slight frown. There might be some psychological issue. His attitude towards Bai Lian had always been approachable, not making people feel distant. Su Nanjing lowered his head and saw the papers that Bai Lian was holding, on which he could see the logo of Xianxia No. 1 Middle School. This is exam paper questions from the school, Bai Lian answered deliberately. I brought them for her. Su Nanjing. Who brings this kind of specialty to see a patient? The deputy director beside them wiped away sweat, finally feeling relieved. What kind of people are they in Xianxia? He raised his head and glanced over, recognizing Bai Lian when his eyes landed on her face, the girl from last time. The deputy director quickly lowered his head. After Bai Lian entered, Yang Lin still had her eyes closed, but when she heard Bai Lian's voice, her eyelashes trembled and she opened her eyes. She lay on the hospital bed with most of her head wrapped in gauze. Heiress your exam paper. I and Ning Xiao were at the library doing homework on Saturday. Bai Lian placed the papers beside her and glanced around the environment. Yang Lin whispered her thanks. Su Nanjing crossed his arms and leaned against the door, with raised eyebrows thinking, this girl's silence is selective. Of course, He didn't know that Yang Lin was even more notoriously unapproachable than Ning Xiao in Xianxia No. 1 middle school. Bai Lian just sat down on the chair beside her and calmly said to Yang Lin, "Also, 12,870 yuan, remember to pay me back." Yang Lin smiled gently and said softly, "Okay." She was transferred to a regular ward that very day. Su Nanjing touched his nose at the door, watching Bai Lian without daring to speak. The deputy director hurried out of the hospital. He encountered Ren Qian. Ren Qian's position had recently been taken over by someone else, and he was facing retirement. He hadn't been sleeping well lately, dark circles under his eyes. Seeing the deputy director, he quickly stopped. "Director Wang, what brings you here today?" "Came to follow up on a case." Although just a deputy director, hearing Ren Qian call him director made Deputy Director Wang's heart comfortable, prompting him to add a few more words. Ren Qian naturally noticed the file bag in the deputy director's hand. What case would bring him personally to the hospital? Has there been some major incident in Xianxia? Ren Qian feigned surprise. However, this time Deputy Director Wang did not elaborate, only smiling at Ren Qian. "Old Ren, take care of your health, I've got things to attend to." After the man left, Ren Qian tilted his head slightly. "Find out who's been admitted to the hospital." In the evening, Ren Qian invited Chen Gang over and casually mentioned the incident at the dinner table. "Has some big shot come to Xianxia again?" Chen Gang was startled, as he was unaware of any such news. Seeing Chen Gang's reaction, Ren Qian nodded, realizing Chen Gang was also unaware. It wasn't because he had been marginalized. No matter, keep asking around. "Chen Zhu, after you finish eating with Wan Xian, go study straight away. The college entrance exams are coming." At the dinner table, Chen Zhu nodded, but as he looked down, he remembered the cool motorbike he had seen at the school gate that day. Saturday. Su Nanjing got up early and saw Ming Dongheng carefully holding a wooden box. He settled at the table and gestured to have his breakfast brought over. "What's this?" There were no top-level clubs in Xianxia. The only place that provided some excitement was a racing track around the mountains. Su Nanjing lived an ascetic life in Xianxia. "Miss Bei's guqin." Ming Dongheng set it down, then called the maintenance teacher. A guqin needed regular maintenance and care. Bai Lian had gone to see Xianxia's with Jianghu Lai, so the task fell onto Ming Dongheng. "Guqin." Su Nanjing, with one leg casually draped over, sipped his tea leisurely, and upon hearing this, smiled at Ming Dongheng. "Ming, can little sister Bai Lian play the guqin?" This was somewhat unexpected. He had seen Bai Lian that night. She lived in bungalows, and Su Nanjing had originally blamed Jianghu Lai severely after finding out where she lived. Her family circumstances seemed average. It didn't seem like she would learn to play the guqin. "Yes," Ming Dongheng spoke succinctly. "It seems she really loves the guqin." It was said that Bai Lian even took her guqin with her for the short time she was in Jianghu. "Is that so?" Su Nanjing picked up a dumpling while sending a message to his mother. "Where has your young master Jiang gone?" he asked offhandedly. Ming Dongheng surprised him with his answer. "Prison." Cough cough, Su Nanjing showed a rare expression of surprise. "Prison? Miss Bei's classmate is there." Su Nanjing uttered an ah sound, feeling somewhat stunned. Not really, so all of Sister Bai Lian's classmates were so explosive. One wanted to wield a knife in a fight, and another was already in prison? She was such a good student. How did she come to have such classmates? Su Nanjing was utterly perplexed. Jiangjing. The class differences in Jiangjing were very pronounced, and navigating the social strata was difficult without backing or ability. Upon receiving Su Nanjing's message, Zu's mother mulled it over. "Guqin?" She set down her teacup and rose. "Go ask if old Master Chen has any time recently." The butler put down his watering can and retreated softly. It was well known that old Master Chen was aged and in poor health, but he kept his passion for calligraphy and the guqin, yet none of the Chen family had the talent for these arts. Zu's mother, whose own mother had been an opera singer, also graduated from the Jiangjing Music Academy. During a visit to meet old Master Chen, at the Chen residence she had once seen Principal Jian. Aware that old Master Chen respected him as a friend. The Su and Jiang families had good relations. Everyone knew that Su Nanjing was a brother to Jianghu Lai, and without knowing Su mother's specific request, old Master Chen did not reject her outright. Old Master Chen held Principal Jian in high esteem. He knew that if he mentioned it, Principal Jian would not refuse him anything, as he had owed Principal Jian a great debt of gratitude. So he gave Zu's mother Principal Jian's contact information. In the residential area of the Jiangjing Music Academy, Jian Zhongyo had not been awake for long. His room played soft music, and his personal phone had a new friend request early in the morning. He didn't add many people on his private number usually. He looked down. "Hello, Principal Jian, this is Gao Yan." The other party had added him through Old Master Chen's shared contact card, and Jian Zhongyo accepted the request. "Gao Yan, Principal Jian, I have a junior who is very fond of the Guqin. Could you find some time to give her some guidance when she comes to Jiangjing in the future?" Chapter 425. Number 167 in line. Brother Jiang wants to take Alien as his goddaughter. Second update, _1. Gao Yan sent the message and patiently waited for a reply. In Jiangjing, the Guzheng is very popular, and Jian Zhongyo might not be as influential as the president of Jiangjing University, but he had won the respect of many people. Getting an audience with him in Jiangjing could be difficult. Even members of the Chen family who had never learned Guzheng found it hard to meet him. And only the old Master Chen had taken Chen Beixian to meet Dean Jian. Dean Jian had 3 students, 2 of whom Gao Yan didn't know. But one of them, Gao Yan was very familiar with by reputation. Lang Shuha, the talented woman of Jiangjing, once as famous as the prodigy Jiang Shijue throughout Xinjiang district. However, in the past 2 years, Jiangjing hadn't produced any other startlingly brilliant individuals. Gao Yan thought a lot. She and Jiang Fulai's mother had grown up together since childhood, and their affection for each other was deep. Love me, love my dog. Just seeing Bai Lian's silhouette made her feel her sisters would definitely like it. She couldn't intervene in Jiang Fulai's affairs, but she had to make sure to arrange everything properly for Bai Lian. As she thought, she sent another message to Su Nanjing. "Do you think she would agree if I asked to adopt her as my goddaughter?" Gao Yan and her father both liked daughters very much, and although their branch of the family did not get along with Su family's second uncle's branch, Gao Yan really coveted the daughter of the second uncle's family. While pondering over this, Jian Zongyi's reply came back. Gao Yan quickly looked down to read it. "Dean Jian, it's possible." After meeting with Zhang Xi's, Bai Lian went to the library to do homework. Jiang Fulai lazily followed behind her carrying a laptop. The library, the queue for doing homework was increasingly large today. Aside from Jian Zhe, there was also Yang Lin, who had a bandaged head. Jian Zhe carefully asked, "Classmate, are you sure you can do homework in this condition?" Yang Lin simply swallowed a handful of medicine. Without saying a word, Pu Shaohan sat down next to Yang Lin and swatted Jian Zhe away with a slap. "Mind your own business, what are you looking at?" She bared her teeth. Jian Zhe and Tang Ming quietly complained about how Pu Shaohan had become so fierce. Tang Ming just grunted a sound, very coldly. Jian Zhe suddenly felt a bit confused, not understanding how this small group had become so unfamiliar after just a few days of absence. It wasn't until Jiang Fulai arrived that the familiar chill and breathlessness touched Jian Zhe, who was quite moved for a moment. The library had a long row of seats, and they sat in the last row by the windows, with the 3 innermost seats reserved for Bai Lian and Jiang He. Bai Lian sat in the middle, Jiang Fulai took the seat by the window, and the remaining seat was Jiang He's. Jiang Fulai extended his hand to place the laptop in front of him, flipped it open, his slender fingers casually tapping the document library as he started browsing through the submitted reports, his mood peaceful. Occasionally, he would open WeChat to reply to a few questions. Until partway through, a message from Su Nanjing came, saying he had brought Jiang He over. Today, since Ming Dongheng was waiting for the Guzheng maintenance, the task of delivering Jiang He was given to Su Nanjing. Opposite the library, Su Nanjing was wearing a white t-shirt with a casual baseball jacket over it, holding a cigarette in his hand, watching Jiang He squatting beside a lamppost with resignation. By his side stood a man dressed in a satin shirt, holding a phone, his features deep. "Bin Gwen," Su Nanjing took a drag of his cigarette and shook his head. "You should know I can't get involved in this matter. You could go to Chen Yongkuan or Sister Beixian instead." While speaking, he was also messaging Jiang Fulai. Jiang He was the only person among Su Nanjing's and Jiang Ziju's circle whom he couldn't handle. Xiao Bin Gwen nodded, expressing understanding. His gaze turned towards Jianghu under the street lamp. With him here, isn't Jiang Jr. The Xiao family had cooperation with the Su family, everyone in the circle knew each other, and Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen shared a good relationship. Both were part of the group, and Xiao Bingwen had come to seek him out after hearing he was in Xianxia. Su Nanjing glanced at Xiao Bingwen, smiled without saying a word. Jiang Fulai's whereabouts in Jiangjing were always a secret, but Xiao Bingwen was not a talkative person, and Su Nanjing trusted that he understood discretion. As the two talked, a lazy figure came walking over from the opposite side. The person wore a white top, and a pale blue long skirt below, the collar, cuffs, and hem all embroidered with delicate peach blossom patterns. Judging by the time, the peach blossoms in Xianxia should begin blooming soon. Seeing her, Su Nanjing extinguished his cigarette and took a step forward. "Are you alone? Where's Jiang Ji?" Su Nanjing was very surprised. With Jianghu having a fit, Bai Lian's coming was pointless. Him. Bai Lian's cold, half-lidded black eyes glanced at Jianghu squatting under the street lamp, her tone indifferent. "He's queuing." "Queuing, huh?" Su Nanjing pinched the cigarette, nodding his head. The next second, he hesitated and looked towards Bai Lian. "Sister Bai Lian, what did you say he's doing?" "Standing in line for milk tea." Bai Lian explained. Su Nanjing. At the side, Xiao Bingwen stopped discussing serious matters when he saw the unfamiliar woman approaching. He just stood aside, looking at Bai Lian with surprise a few times. Such a look was rare to see even in Jiangjing. "Let's just wait for him to come over. None of us can handle Jianghu." Su Nanjing looked at Bai Lian's beautiful and lazy face, unable to associate Jiang Fulai with lining up. His brain instantly became somewhat chaotic. As he was speaking, he saw Bai Lian walked over to Jianghu and grabbed his collar. She picked up the child in one swoop. The child frowned, looking at her expressionlessly. "What's wrong?" Bai Lian squatted down. Jianghu was wearing a blue little vest. "Go to school, go back." With just 2 words, Bai Lian understood his meaning instantly. "Did your brother say he will send you back to school the second half of this year?" Jianghu was about to raise his hand to block his ears. Bai Lian reached out to push his hand away. Jianghu put it back again. "Fine," Bai Lian smiled. "I'll also go to Jiangjing in the second half of the year." Jianghu was startled for a moment. Bai Lian slowly said, "I will become a university student and you?" She smiled. Jianghu silently lowered his hand. "Come along by yourself." Bai Lian patted her dress as she got up, and then politely bid farewell to Su Nanjing. "I'll take him to the library first." Su Nanjing watched dumbfounded as Jianghu obediently followed behind Bai Lian. He then took out his phone and sent a message in the group chat. "Su Nanjing, at Ming Dongheng now I understand your, what the hell, Ming Dongheng? Jiang Shijue? Question mark. Su Nanjing put away his phone. He watched Bai Lian leave, having had 2 what the hells today. Once the others left, Xiao Bingwen still gazed in the direction where Bai Lian had departed. "She is." Xiao Bingwen could tell from just now that the brother Jiang Su Nanjing had mentioned was Jiang Fulai, and that girl was just with Jiang Fulai. "Yes, it's exactly as you think." Su Nanjing came back to his senses. Jiang family's young master's principles and bottom line seemed to have no use with Bai Lian. Thinking this, he smiled at Xiao Bingwen. Xiao Bingwen retracted his gaze. "She? How come I have never heard of her in Jiangjing?" In his memory, there was no one who matched the girl he had just seen. Su Nanjing relit his cigarette. "Normal, she's not from Jiangjing, just a good student from this locale." "What?" Xiao Bingwen was especially surprised. No wonder he had never heard of her. Jiangjing's top circles were only so big, especially among their generation. There were only a handful of impressive people. Xianxia? Xiao Bingwen then lost any interest in delving deeper. "Don't talk nonsense after you go back." Su Nanjing glanced at him with a smile. "I know your family is also acquainted with the Gao family." Xiao Bingwen's heart tensed up. "Nanjing, rest assured." Su Nanjing chuckled, not reminding him further about the matter. In the evening, Bai Lian returned with Jiang Fulai. She was going to pick up her guzheng. By the time the 2 adults and 1 child got back, the sun had not completely set. In the antique-looking hall, Su Nanjing had just gotten back not long ago. He finished a phone call with Gao Yan, and when he saw Bai Lian, he immediately stood up. Jianghu was sluggishly trailing behind Jiang and Bai Lian. Jiang was holding a stack of books, and Bai Lian was casually playing with Jiang laptop with her hands. It was not a large laptop, very thin, and she could spin it on the tip of her finger. Xiao Bingwen, sitting hesitantly beside Su Nanjing, was talking to Ming Dongheng. Master Xiao, Ming Dongheng replied very formally. I don't know about Director Chen's affairs, but even Mr. Wang has not found any leads. Wang Yufeng had mines, but he was affiliated with the Dawson family. It was not easy to find out that he had been providing resources for experiments and heavy industry over the long term. Xiao Bingwen knew that both Director Chen and Ming Dongheng were hard to deal with. About to continue speaking, he saw people returning at the entrance, and he quickly stood up, his eyes focusing on Jiang, young Master Jiang. Jiang placed the stack of books on the coffee table. His eyes and brows exuded a chilly pride, and without raising his head, keep talking. It meant not to mind them. Jiang went to get Bai Lian's guzheng. Bai Lian leaned against the doorway, not entering, as she waited for the guzheng to go have dinner with Jianghu. Xiao Bingwen glanced at Bai Lian beside him but did not continue speaking. It was Ming Dongheng beside him though, who upon seeing Bai Lian, got up to pour tea, and Xiao Bingwen was taken aback by his actions. Su Nanjing paid attention to the laptop spinning in Bai Lian's hands and was terrified. If it fell, the whole laboratory would be heartbroken. Sister Bai Lian. Su Nanjing held back his gaze from looking and recalled Gao Yan's words. He walked over to Bai Lian, somewhat hesitantly. Have you ever entertained the thought, for instance, of having more family members? Or having another mother? Bai Lian placed the laptop flat in her palm, finally resting it on the bar counter, while looking at a message on her phone. What? On the phone. Wang. How long can my godmother last? Chapter 426. Unusually talented individual _1 takes the 168th preliminary exam. Bai Lian had reminded Wang Yufeng about his grandmother's sickness during the new year. Ning Xiao had also been coming out to do homework less frequently lately. She looked at the message, stopped, propped her elbow on the bar, and began to ponder over Wang Yufeng's issue. It's like, Su Nanjing leaned against the wooden minibar and paused to think. Having an additional mom, perhaps? His voice wasn't loud, but Ming Dongheng, who was delivering tea, and Xiao Bingwen, who was not far away, both heard him. Not to mention Xiao Bingwen. Even Ming Dongheng was particularly surprised. Bai Lian was sensitive to the word, mom. She didn't look up, idly tapping on her phone's screen, but her hanging hand was a bit tense. Then let's forget about it. She picked up the tea Ming Dongheng had brought over and took a leisurely sip with her head bowed. Her expression relaxed and casual. Not far away, Jiang put down his violin. Bai Lian stood straight, reaching out her hand. Give it to me. Jiang expression remained unchanged, but a hint of gloominess could be seen on his stern face as he handed the violin case to Bai Lian. He escorted Bai Lian back. After the two had left, Su Nanjing leaned against the bar, turned to Ming Dongheng, and clicked his tongue. Bai Lian, pretty interesting, huh? Ming Dongheng glanced at him and stayed silent. Only then did Xiao Bingwen slowly inquire, Nanjing, what you meant just now was, my mom has always wanted a daughter, right? Su Nanjing went back and sat on the sofa, refilling the cup he'd finished drinking from with water. She's definitely the daughter my mom dreams of having. As he spoke, Su Nanjing thought his own mom was kind of weird. He had only known Bai Lian for a few days, and although they already had a life-and-death relationship, asking her so abruptly if she minded having an extra mom. Jiang would kill him if he heard that, wouldn't he? He lowered his head and sent a message to Gao Yan. I'll think of another way. Across from him, Xiao Bingwen was taken aback, the Su family wanting to adopt Bai Lian as a goddaughter. He looked up slightly towards the outside. Did that Miss Bai just now not know who Su Nanjing is? Let's hit the bar tonight. Su Nanjing crossed his legs and looked at Xiao Bingwen. Well, scout the place out. Next to him, Ming Dongheng reminded, you guys should bring some bodyguards. Qinglong Bar was the only one in Xianxia that was worth Su Nanjing's visit. Su Nanjing was well aware of this. Backter Street did not belong to domestic forces. The Su family in Jianghu could count on one hand those who were comparable, but internationally that was all there was. The only ones who held sway in Backter Street were those old families that operated abroad. Xiao Ming, Su Nanjing smiled at Ming Dongheng. You're getting more and more thoughtful. Meanwhile, at Ji Heng's. After Bai Lian returned, Ji Heng was video calling with Ji Xiaojun. I know, buying a house. Ji Heng turned on the yard lights. Ji Xiaojun was urging him to hurry up and buy a house, but his response was nonchalant. You didn't run into anybody? On the other side of the phone, Ji Xian's face was somewhat blurred. No. Ji Heng could understand. Their lineage didn't count for much. Seeing Bai Lian return, Ji Heng handed his phone to her. Your uncle, aunt. Upon seeing Bai Lian in the camera view, Xin Qing snatched Ji Xian's phone. Alien, why did you come back so early today? Came back for dinner. Bai Lian set her backpack aside and chatted with Xin Qing at a leisurely pace. Since Shen Qing and Ji Xiaojun moved away, she had been coming home much earlier than usual. Jianghu. The residence where Ji Xiaojun was temporarily staying had a sense of the old times, and the rooms were quite spacious. In the lodge hall outside, the butler flipped through some documents and casually set them aside. What are they doing? They're making a phone call, Xiaojia said from the side, his tone respectful. They had been busy sorting out Ji Heng's accounts for the past few days. However, it came as a surprise to the butler that Ji Xiaojun and Shen Qing stayed in, showing no interest in visiting various attractions. Let him get used to the accounts first. The butler was aware that Ji Xiaojun was an artist, and there would definitely be some barriers in learning these things. If it really doesn't work out, find someone to manage them on his behalf. Xiaojia furrowed his brow, originally thinking he'd be able to bring back an assistant for the master, especially since Mu Hang had some skills back then. But now, it appeared to be causing trouble for the Mu family. The new week started, and the junior and senior high school students also began their school year. Xianxia No. 1 High School was much livelier than before, but along with the bustle, there came the groans of all students. Because the start of school signified the beginning of the initial exams. After school in the afternoon, Su Nanjing was still waiting for Bai Lian by the roadside. Her group of friends was as formidable as ever. Today, they needed to head to the Zhang family first to help move some goods. Chapter 427. Unusually talented individual _2 takes the 168th preliminary exam. Seeing Bai Lian, he lifted his hand slightly. Sister Bai Lian. He was wearing casual sportswear, very relaxed. He had been looking for Bai Lian frequently these days, his face noble and handsome. There was even a dedicated thread for Su Nanjing on the forum at school. When they learned he was Bai Lian's certain brother, a bunch of girls exclaimed underneath. Sure enough, Abotai's relatives are all beauties. The boys in school were rather frustrated. After all, they had just gotten rid of Zhang Xiai's and now another outsider had appeared. Bai Lian asked Wang Qi and the others to go ahead to Zhang family's place before she went to find Su Nanjing. As she approached, Su Nanjing noticed she was holding a roll of A4 paper, all rolled up, not knowing what it was. This is a new style bag. Su Nanjing withdrew his gaze, took a beige bag from the motorcycle, and handed it to Bai Lian. You can carry your books in it. Bai Lian didn't have much awareness of brands in this world. Su Nanjing had given her more than one. Jianghu Lai only let her keep it, and if she didn't like it, she could just sell it on a second-hand website. Thank you. She thought for a moment and reached out to take the bag. Su Nanjing glanced at the milk tea shop on the opposite side, remembered something, and immediately said, Sister Bai Lian, wait a moment. As fast as he spoke, Bai Lian didn't even have time to stop him before she saw him dash to the milk tea shop across the street. Bai Lian just stood there, casually looking down and unfolding the A4 paper, slowly reading it. Miss Bai. Not far away, Xiao Bingwen approached, his voice very polite. He was here to find Su Nanjing. He had seen Bai Lian a few times these past few days while following Su Nanjing. Although he couldn't figure out Bai Lian's depth, Xiao Bingwen was quite polite to her. Bai Lian looked up slightly, and behind Xiao Bingwen, there was a young man she hadn't seen before. He went across the street. He'll be back soon. As she spoke, she lazily flipped another sheet of paper. Thank you, said Xiao Bingwen and glanced casually at Bai Lian's paper, full of English text with a data chart in the middle. This glance left him startled. Most of the English words were quite difficult. Xiao Bingwen was from the management department and had spent a few years abroad. His English was good, but this was the first time he found something he didn't quite understand. Bai Lian, she could understand it? Xiao Bingwen withdrew his gaze, walked a few steps to the side. Young master, Xiao Yilei looked at Su Nanjing, very surprised. What's the third young master doing? Xiao Yilei was Xiao Bingwen's right-hand man. They had been scouting the Qinglong bar for several days, got to know a few people, and today heard that a new boss was coming. Before heading to Purist Street, Su Nanjing was busy with a bag and a trip to the milk tea shop. Xiao Yilei naturally found it strange. He looked at the girl in front of him, head down looking at the A4 paper, his gaze falling on her school uniform. Are you bringing her along too? Bring her. Xiao Bingwen withdrew his gaze and shook his head. Even with 3 times the courage, Nanjing wouldn't dare. Although he didn't understand why Zhang Fulai was fond of her, these days he had more or less figured out Bai Lian's place in the hearts of Ming Dongheng and the others. The junior and senior kids were back, and the line to buy milk tea grew long. Yang Lin stood in front of the cash register, her head wrapped in gauze, but these wounds had become common for her, so she didn't fall behind in her classes or part-time job. Yang's mother came in to buy milk tea with a boy and another girl, and immediately noticed Yang Lin in front of the cash register. Are you okay? The incident with Yang Jianpain had spread throughout the tube building. What would you like to drink? Yang Lin didn't look at her, her tone indifferent. Next to Yang's mother, the girl looked impatiently at Yang's mother. Hey, what are you actually here for? The little boy stepped on the girl's shoe next to him, then looked up at Yang Lin and made a gun-shooting gesture, very arrogantly, as if he'd been spoiled. Bang bang, kill the ugly monster. He was burned halfway through when someone picked him up. What are you doing? Seeing her son being lifted away, Yang's mother was very anxious and rushed to intercept the tall figure, protecting her son. Su Nanjing gave Yang's mother a glance, shrugging gently and very amiably. Your son? Sorry, I thought he was an orphan. Laughter from the school kids nearby followed. Feeling humiliated, Yang's mother decided to leave without buying the milk tea, taking her son with her. 2 milk teas, Su Nanjing finally leaned against the counter, his tone unhurried. The kind your deskmate always drinks. Yang Lin didn't say a word and made 2 identical cherry milk teas. Su Nanjing took 1 cup, the other he left in place, and with a smile said, Thanks a bunch. He turned back, handed the bag of milk tea to Bai Lian, and looked at Xiao Bingwen. How did you end up here? Chapter 428. Unusually talented individual _3 takes the 168th preliminary exam. It's about the company consultant issue, Xiao Bingwen said straightforwardly to Su Nanjing without any intention of avoiding Bai Lian. I'm thinking of looking for Professor Huang. Bai Lian had no interest in listening. She waved her hand at Su Nanjing. Thank you. Then she turned and walked in the direction of the Zhang family's place. After Bai Lian left, Su Nanjing finally sat on her motorcycle, looked up at Xiao Bingwen, and folded her arms across her chest. Then it's no use looking for me. Although I am from Jianghu University, I later switched to economics. You should look for Brother Jiang. Xiao Yilei, who was with Xiao Bingwen. Who would dare to? The street with the tube building. Yang Lin's mother quickly received a call from her current husband, who said with more than a hint of sarcasm, Did you give her money? Don't forget that your son is going to get married someday. They moved back only after hearing that Xianxia was becoming prosperous, and when real estate prices there rose, they simply bought an 80 SQM apartment near the tube building. Ever since Yang Lin's mother returned, her husband had been very bothered about Yang family's business. Yang Lin's mother felt an inherent sense of guilt about leaving Yang Lin behind. After all these years, chastised by her husband like this, she hesitated. She's about to take the college entrance exams. So what? The current husband became alert. Anyway, don't bring her back here, and don't give her a penny. The daughter of a gambler, Tian Bao is going to apply for Beijing University in the future. Don't let her lead him astray. After so many years away, Yang Lin's mother felt nothing for Yang Lin except guilt. Realizing this after her husband's words, she remembered that her future old age would depend on Tianbao's support. She weighed her options and concluded, I understand. Several students from class 15 were in the backyard of the Zhang family's house, moving flower pots and merchandise. Mr. Zhang was not at home today. He had probably gone on a business trip after the new year. Mrs. Zhang brought out a bunch of snacks and coke for the group of students. I've told you, there's not much merchandise today, you didn't have to come. When Bai Lian arrived, most of the heavy lifting was already done. She moved the last box of flowers from the truck and placed it into the backyard. Just in time, Suan called her, his voice cheerful. Alien recently, those people have stopped prying into your grandfather's information, maybe we were mistaken. Thank you, Bai Lian replied while holding a pair of scissors, slicing open the tape on the box to reveal a bunch of fresh flowers. She only raised an eyebrow, of course. No one was inquiring anymore because the person had been found. Is there anything you or your grandfather are lacking lately? Suan asked, then seemed to remember something. Also, what has your uncle been up to? I've called him twice and he hasn't answered. It's nothing, he's just been a bit busy lately, Bai Lian replied nonchalantly. With that, Suan no longer dwelt on the issue with Ji Xiaojun. After hanging up the phone, Mrs. Zhang passed her a can of Coke. Auntie, Bai Lian opened the Coke with one hand and took a sip. Zhang Xiais has earned a commendation in prison, decreasing his sentence by a month and a half. She and Jiang Fulai had been tutoring Zhang Xiais every week. But Mrs. Zhang only got to visit him once every half-month, so she hadn't heard this news. Really? Mrs. Zhang instinctively looked up upon hearing news about Zhang Xiais. How did he earn a commendation? During the new year, there was a disturbance in the prison. Zhang Xiais had knocked down the ringleader, quelling the unrest, and it was said he gained quite a few minions inside. However, Bai Lian did not go into detail with Mrs. Zhang about this. He helped the prison warden catch someone. Bai Lian downplayed the incident. She knew full well how clumsy Zhang Xiais was and that he must have suffered a lot in there. Bai Lian was not concerned, but she knew Mrs. Zhang could not bear to hear it. Good, Mrs. Zhang wiped her eyes. I'll go and tell Yan Lu the good news. A reduction of a month and a half in the sentence meant he would be out even sooner. This weekend, the entire Xianxia No. 1 high school had scheduled a beginning-of-term examination. All 3 grades would take it together. The internal exams at Xianxia No. 1 high school were not as rigidly structured as the college entrance examinations. Saturday's exams were Chinese, mathematics, and English, with the final exam on Sunday morning still being the comprehensive science subject. Bai Lian only brought 2 pens, as usual. She was ranked first in the final exams, and all the senior year teachers knew her by name and face. Seating for the exams was done by rank, so she was at the first table in the first examination room. Almost as soon as the comprehensive science exam started, an invigilating teacher stopped next to her, looking down at her exam paper. Bai Lian's papers were always favored by the teachers for their neatness. Now, even Lu Lingxi and Lian Ningxiu's papers were starting to be scrutinized, not to mention the others, especially Wang Qi and a few who liked to show off with extravagant writing styles. Chapter 429. Unusually talented individual _4 takes the 168th preliminary exam. Lu Lingxi had scolded her more than once. After over 2 hours of exams, Bai Lian was still the first to finish physics, then biology, and finally chemistry. It had been more than a month since the final exams, and she worked on chemistry and biology every day. Because of these 2 subjects, she hadn't even done the questions on the Jianghu app. So much so that when Tang Ming and Ning Xiao didn't know how to solve a problem, they would ask Jiang Fulai, who disdained them several times. The exam ended at 11:30, but Bai Lian handed in her paper at 11. The other people in the examination room were quite numb to this. Most teachers at Xianxia No. 1 knew that Bai Lian was not very good at chemistry and biology. As soon as she handed in her paper, 2 teachers went to look at her answer sheet but couldn't make heads or tails of it. Because one was the English teacher, and the other was the math teacher. Outside the gates of Xianxia No. 1, a sapphire blue car was already waiting at the corner. When Bai Lian opened the car door, he seemed surprised, tilting his head slightly, his pale complexion even more prominent under the sunlight. So early. The questions weren't difficult. I finished all I could do. The questions this time were provided by Xianxia No. 1 themselves and weren't half as difficult as the joint exam, making it easier for Bai Lian to handle. Jiang Fulai's slender fingers rested on the steering wheel as he started the car and headed towards their residence. Today happened to be a day off. Ji Heng had gone fishing with Director Chen, and Qi Yundai wasn't around either. So Jiang Fulai decided to take Bai Lian out for a meal. Bai Lian lazily rested her hand on the car window, looking down at the messages on her phone. Academician Ma, 145 days, Academician Ma. File. The file contained some papers Academician Ma had selected for Bai Lian. They were all quantum mechanics papers worth reading and were suitable for beginners, mainly for vocabulary building. She leaned back and said, "Academician Ma sent me some new papers." Jianghu Lai drove at a steady pace onto the main road. "Send them to me." Jianghu Lai's residence. When the two of them arrived, Su Nanjing had just woken up not long ago, and lazily yawned asking someone to brew a pot of tea for him. Xiao Bingwen had been waiting on the sofa for Su Nanjing for quite some time. Seeing the two return, Xiao Bingwen stood up with much restraint. "Young Master Jiang." He wasn't like Su Nanjing and naturally did not dare to call Jianghu Lai brother. Jianghu Lai placed the keys casually to one side and nodded slightly towards him. "Sister Bai Lian," Su Nanjing took a sip of tea and greeted Bai Lian. "Didn't you go to the library today?" Bai Lian saw Jianghu playing with Lego on the carpet beside the sofa. She walked over, sat next to him, helped him with the instructions, and handed him a Lego piece. "I just finished an exam." She was wearing a long skirt with 2 pens stuffed into her oversized pockets. Su Nanjing also found it strange. It seemed as if Bai Lian could anticipate Jianghu's next move. She handed him exactly the Lego piece he needed. "Ah!" Seeing her empty hands, Su Nanjing was especially surprised when she mentioned she had just finished an exam. "Brother Jiang." Su Nanjing suddenly remembered the matter concerning Xiao Bingwen and spoke to Jianghu Lai. "Do you have any contact with Professor Huang?" He glanced at Xiao Bingwen. Jianghu Lai bent down, handed 2 scattered Lego pieces to Bai Lian, his expression faint. "Are you afraid Academician Ma won't find a reason for letting me study quantum mechanics?" Su Nanjing laughed, nearly forgetting about that. Jianghu Lai went upstairs to the study to print the papers Academician Ma had sent for Bai Lian. After he left, Xiao Bingwen finally let out a sigh of relief. Watching Bai Lian play Lego with Jianghu, Su Nanjing said to Xiao Bingwen, "Don't take these researchers for fools. For Professor Huang's situation, think of some other solution. Or you could wait a few more years until he has results, and then claim him under your company's name. That's not impossible either." The few notable figures in Jianghu's scientific research community were well known. Xiao Bingwen took out a cigarette pack from his pocket with much concern. "He one is still far from ready." "There's also Liang Wuyu," Su Nanjing glanced at him and smiled. "You could try to compete with the Chen family for him. In the future. He won't be inferior to Hewen." Xiao Bingwen nodded. Several families were competing for these seed players. Liang Wuyu was valued by the Chen family early on and had started working in labs since high school. Aside from him, there were no other outstanding students in the past 2 years. Liang Wuyu is also a senior, taking the college entrance exam with you. Like he won, a rare talent seen once in a decade. "The Zhongjing app," Su Nanjing started, but recalling Bai Lian beside him didn't want to leave her out, he explained the situation. "Never mind, you might not know about it. One needed to meet certain criteria to use the Zhongjing app." Bai Lian handed the missing Lego piece to Jianghu, and when she heard Su Nanjing speaking to her, she lazily turned her head to glance at him. "Is that so?" She continued to leisurely pick Legos for Jianghu. Su Nanjing continued, "Professor Huang is a professor at Jianghu University, also a student of Academician Ma. They both are pillars of Chang'an District. That laboratory underground at Jianghu University, it belongs to Academician Ma. But Academician Ma has a special status. Ordinary people can't meet him, so if you, Xiao, really can't find anyone." Xiao Bingwen looked at Su Nanjing, wondering if it was okay to casually discuss Academician Ma's information. He watched Bai Lian slowly playing with the Lego, then reassured himself. Even Academician Ma was beyond his reach, so how could ordinary people understand his significance? Chapter 430. 169 She can't turn things upside down in the Zhongjing circle? Guessing rank _1. Su Nanjing said, and Bai Lian just nodded in agreement. Although she didn't react much, she still responded. "You're in your senior year of high school, almost there," Su Nanjing said with a smile, then turned to Bai Lian. "But I really envy you guys." "Envy?" Bai Lian picked up a piece of Lego casually and handed it to Jianghu, expressing surprise at Su Nanjing's remark. "Yes, even though this year's college entrance exam might be harder than last year's, it's still much better than our year." Su Nanjing didn't pay much attention to the college entrance exam, but had heard a bit about it because of Liang Wuyu. Nanjing's year was like a battle of the gods, Xiao Bingwen added on the side. That year was dubbed the toughest college entrance exam, producing a bunch of well-known figures. Su Nanjing laughed. I almost didn't make it into Jianghu University. Is that so? Bai Lian nodded. Next to her, Jianghu looked up at Su Nanjing. Su Nanjing was somewhat baffled and raised an eyebrow. What are you doing? Jianghu lowered his head again and resumed piecing together his Lego slowly. Upstairs, Jiang Fulai brought down a stack of printed papers. He had them bound and placed them on the bar. Ma Institute had given Bai Lian some introductory papers, some he had read before, and others were recent hot topics. There wasn't much for a senior high school student to get involved with, mainly to lay a foundation for the future. In the hall, the dishes had already been arranged on the dining table. Xiao Bingwen came today to meet Su Nanjing, who had slept until mealtime. Jiang Fulai didn't let him leave and invited him to stay and eat. He dared not sit close to others and took a seat next to Su Nanjing. Are your school's test questions sufficient? Jiang Fulai knew about the tension between Xianxia and Beiqing, but his reach wasn't that far, and in the end, Xianxia No. 1 High School had to develop on its own. The Chen family had been a great help to Xianxia No. 1 High School in recent years, but still, it didn't rise up. Like the Chen family, Jiang Fulai could only offer them some resources. As he spoke, he noticed there were no drinks next to Bai Lian, so he got up, fetched a can of cola, casually opened it, and placed it beside her. This scene didn't surprise Su Nanjing sitting nearby, but Xiao Bingwen was exceptionally astonished, thinking he had to be even more courteous to Bai Lian in the future. After all, even Jianghu didn't receive such treatment now. Taking her time, Bai Lian picked up the cola and took a sip, thinking about the school's issues. For now, yes, most of the students have poor fundamentals and can't handle the more difficult comprehensive questions. It wasn't just the senior students affected, but also the freshmen and sophomores. Listening calmly to her, Jiang Fulai's left hand casually rested on the table. After the college entrance exam, based on the exam quality, we'll reassess and aim for provincial key status without too much worry. It was the first time Bai Lian had heard of the provincial key assessment, and she asked some details. Teacher qualifications, school environment, and student performance were all part of the assessment, with student performance being the most critical. Apart from high scores, the school's bachelor's degree qualification rate was also important. Both Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen were listening and were quite surprised. Doesn't Xianxia have a provincial key high school? The two of them were discussing studies. Xiao Bingwen looked at Jiang Fulai, who sat beside Bai Lian, always slightly bowing his head, quietly listening to Bai Lian speak. Although he still seemed enveloped in a chill, this gentle and jade-like demeanor was very different from what Xiao Bingwen had imagined. He felt that Jiang Fulai was just a bit cold, nowhere near as terrifying as the rumors said. Did you get the news about the supplier? Su Nanjing asked casually with chopsticks in hand, starting a conversation about business with Xiao Bingwen. Xiao Bingwen nodded with a smile on his face. Chail, he's involved with the Dawson family. I had a friend check it out locally. It's confirmed. Unable to find a collaboration with Wang Yufeng, they had to find a workaround. The two had been hanging out in bars the past few days, and with Su Nanjing's generous spending, they had gathered quite a bit of information and, through mutual interests, met a contact. Su Nanjing narrowed his eyes slightly. Get him more drinks tonight and probe some more. We want to secure this person. Also, how are the preparations for the Panshan Highway coming along? Almost done. Then let's check it out this afternoon. We have to be ready before the reporters come. Su Nanjing, hearing the news about Chail, was in a good mood. Turning to Bai Lian, he said, Would little sister Bai Lian like to come have a look? There will be people doing bends this afternoon. After finishing her bite of food, Bai Lian looked up at Su Nanjing, her eyes bright. I haven't read today. Su Nanjing. Right. That's true. Little sister Bai Lian, the studious good student, probably didn't even understand that his mention of doing bends referred to motorcycle racing. After lunch, Jianghu went for a nap. Su Nanjing took Xiao Bingwen to check out the Panshan Highway and went to the small bar to pick up the keys. Chapter 431. She can't turn the world upside down in Jianghu? Guess rank _2. His eyes immediately caught sight of the printed papers that Jianghu had left on top. Research paper? Even though it was a stack of English printouts, Su Nanjing instantly recognized the website identifier and said to Xiao Bingwen, "I can't understand any of these kinds of documents." Su Nanjing realized it was a physics research paper and complained a bit to Xiao Bingwen. "I don't understand it either." Xiao Bingwen had never published in that journal, and it was only after Su Nanjing mentioned it that he learned of it, inevitably recalling what he had seen at Bai Lian's place last time. Was she actually reading scientific research literature? Because of exams, Bai Lian didn't bring any books today, and planned to read the new review articles published by academician Ma in the afternoon. She watched Jianghu lying on the small bed, her hand curled around the literature. Jianghu stood to the side, watching her, and suddenly said, "Do you want to take a noon rest?" Bai Lian didn't nap because she basically couldn't fall asleep, except for that half hour in the library last time. Upon his mentioning it, she also hesitated a bit. "Is there another room here?" Her gaze shifted towards Jianghu. Remembering correctly, Su Nanjing lived here. "I don't sleep at noon." Jianghu turned around calmly, opened his own room, dressed in black cotton soft home attire, his delicate profile highlighted in a soft haze under the light streaming through the window. Bai Lian looked up. His room was laid with gray flooring. It was a large room with a gray bed in the center, and a desk under the windowsill, all in a very cold color tone. The temperature was much lower than that in Jianghu's room. "If you want to rest, you can come here. I will work on my project." Jianghu left the door half open, his slender and jade-like fingers resting politely on the iron door handle. Bai Lian walked in to take a look, nodded lightly, and said, "Okay." Nighttime. Jianghu took Bai Lian back to Purist Street. Jianghu and Director Chen had caught quite a lot of fish today, but the courtyard was not as lively as before. Director Chen helped Jianghu cook in the kitchen. That evening, Jianghu invited Jianghu and Jianghu to stay for dinner. When Jianghu returned, his room was still tidy, but on the desk by the window, there was a new piece of paper with a half-completed physics thought map. The handwriting on this paper was very neat. Jianghu looked down at it for a while, then carefully folded the paper. She hadn't slept there, but she had read for a long time and written for a length of time. After the people in the courtyard had left, only Bai Lian and Jianghu remained. Jianghu hung the fish outside, planning to make dried fish. He did not embroider today but took out paper and a pen to sketch the designs for the graduation outfits for males, who didn't have many requirements, but Jianghu had high standards for himself. Under the bright light, his head bowed slightly as he dropped a gentle stroke of the pen. Occasionally, he would glance at Bai Lian sitting under the tree. "Grandpa, if you have something to say, just say it." Bai Lian's fingers rested on the piano strings, her head not even lifting as she tuned. Jianghu was silent for a moment. "You," seemingly finding it hard to say. He thought for a long while before hesitantly speaking, "You might be getting a sister or a brother." Mulan was pregnant. Jianghu had known this news since Friday, but since Bai Lian had exams this week, he hadn't mentioned it. In fact, for the first decade plus of Bai Lian's life, she had always been the only child of the Bai family, and Mulan felt that Bai Qiming had made it clear she was the heir. Who would have thought Bai Xiaoqi and Bai Xiaoke would come along later? And that's when Mulan realized Bai Qiming had a backup plan. Jianghu knew Bai Lian had been the only child for many years. The incident with the Bai family had already saddened her into returning to Xianxia, and now here came this news about Mulan. "Oh!" Bai Lian set her hand on the table, her tone nonchalant. She showed none of the sadness Jianghu had anticipated, which only made him more silent. Jianghu looked at her a while longer, sighed slightly, and resumed his drawing. He didn't know if Mulan would seriously raise the child. He just felt she was carefully preparing her next masterpiece. A few streets away was a small courtyard. Inside, the lights were dim, and from a corner room came a continuous low coughing. The middle-aged man in a black coat had his eyebrows furrowed, a cigarette unlit in his hand, watching the old man on the sick bed with a frown. Ning Xiao sat at the bedside, adeptly helping her grandmother breathe smoothly. Grandma Wang's coughing had quieted down a lot, and sleepiness appeared to loom over her. As Wang Yufeng watched Grandma Wang's eyelashes slowly close, the weight in his heart lifted, but just then his phone in his pocket rang. Fearing that Grandma Wang would awaken, Wang Yufeng quickly hung up and stepped out into the courtyard. Chapter 432. 169 Can't she turn the world upside down in the Jiangjing circle? Guessing ranking _3. Hearing the sound from the room dwindling, he finally relaxed. Clenching the cigarette between his teeth, he pulled out his phone to return the call. What is it? His voice was heavy. On the other end of the phone, his confidant, sensing his bad mood, simply said, "How should this year's share be divided? Quite a few people in China have found Lucian and his men." "Well, talk when I get back." Wang Yufeng recently had no mood to deal with these matters, the scar on his brow imbued with a fierce aura. "Tell them to tighten up." "Yes, boss," his confidant replied. Wang Yufeng hung up the call, irritated. After waiting a while longer, Ning Xiao emerged from the room. His hair at the front was a bit long, shadowing the gloom in his eyes. "Uncle Wang." His tone was indifferent. "Godmother stopped taking her medicine?" Wang Yufeng sought countless doctors for Grandma Wang in the past, but she had long been plagued by illness. Being over 90 and still alive was already not easy. Ning Xiao went to sweep the trash in the courtyard, responding coldly with a "hmm." Wang Yufeng was not surprised by his cheap nephew's attitude. Watching Ning Xiao's retreating figure, he reached out to light his cigarette. "Your technique is good. It reduced Godmother's pain considerably. Which doctor did you learn from?" Wang Yufeng could naturally tell Ning Xiao's proficiency. "Classmate," Ning Xiao replied sparingly. "Classmate?" Wang Yufeng watched Ning Xiao's back, slightly surprised. He knew Ning Xiao well. Because of his early life experiences, he was usually distant and they rarely spoke. It was only in the last 2 years, as Grandma Wang's health failed, that they communicated more. Wang Yufeng glanced at Ning Xiao, took a slow drag from his cigarette, and spoke softly. "In a couple of days, you'll find a chance to invite your classmate for a meal. You let them know." Ning Xiao remained silent. "Don't let Godmother worry with her in this condition," Wang Yufeng exhaled smoke. "They teach you because they consider you a friend. After finally making a friend, do you want me to tell Godmother?" "I got it," Ning Xiao finally spoke. "Your classmate, a boy or a girl?" Wang Yufeng pried further. Ning Xiao looked at him coldly. Wang Yufeng removed the cigarette. All right, I won't ask." "You stinker." Jianghu. Su family. Mid-month, the Su family gathered for a meal at the old master's place. The Su family lineage had substantially more people than the Jiang family, and with ambitious younger generations, strife within big families was inevitable. Gao Yan sat next to Su Jueling, below the old master. Across them, Su Jueming glanced at Su Jueling. "I heard Big Brother secured a position for a clerk?" With her makeup impeccably done, Gao Yan elegantly sipped her tea without a word upon hearing this. Su Jueling answered with minimal effort and a slight smile. "Second brother is well informed. Of course, Big Brother has a fine son. Everyone in the clan respects Big Brother." Su Jueming lifted his head with a smirk. "I've heard Nanjing has been up to something big recently. Let me congratulate Big Brother in advance." "Big move." The old master indeed looked up, directing his gaze at Su Jueling with a smile. "I was wondering why I haven't seen Nanjing lately. Where did he go?" Among the younger generation of the Su family, many were outstanding, but in Jiangjing, Su Nanjing and Su Jin were particularly well known, particularly Su Nanjing, who had the backing of the Jiang family and who had always outshone Su Jin. Giving Su Jueming a brief glance, Su Jueling reported to the old master. "Dad, don't mind the nonsense from my second brother. Nanjing has been off riding motorbikes in some secluded place recently." Less than 10 people knew that Su Nanjing went to Xianxia to draw blood from Jianghu Lai. "You're being modest," Su Jueming turned to the old master. "Nanjing wants to give you a surprise." Su Jueling frowned slightly. After the meal, on his way back to his own yard, Su Jueling finally spoke to Gao Yan. "Who did you want that position for?" He asked casually, knowing his wife was a person of discretion, which is why he hadn't refused when she brought it up. "For our future daughter," Gao Yan, wrapped in a thick military coat over her Cheongsam in the Jiangjing cold, paused as she recalled Su Nanjing's response, "Shuedinga's daughter." She answered. Su Jueling was used to Gao Yan's odd descriptions. "Daughter? Su Jini?" Su Jini, Su Juming's daughter, was currently the highest status socialite in Jiangjing circles. Old Master Su greatly doted on her, and Su Jini was also very promising. Unlike her father, Gao Yan had a good impression of her. After all, with the family's prominence in the Su family, the only ones who could outshine Su Jini were members of the Jiang family. But in this generation of the Jiang family, there was no other young lady but Jianghu Lai. Chapter 433. 169 She Can't Turn the World Upside Down in the Zhongjing Circle? Guessing rank _4. Gao Yan had been envious of her for a long time. It's not her, I have my eye on a goddaughter for you, it's... Gao Yan laughed softly, then seemed somewhat distressed. She doesn't seem to like us very much though. Oh. Su Juling was surprised but not overly confident. Gao Yan had the idea of taking a goddaughter, and throughout Zhongjing, there couldn't be many people who would refuse, right? This was indeed novel, but since Gao Yan was not keen on elaborating, he didn't ask. Lin uncle, who had grown up with Su Juling, was particularly astonished. Gao Yan wanted to take a goddaughter? Given Su Nanjing's status, if Gao Yan took a goddaughter, wouldn't she turn the Zhongjing circle upside down? After all, a huge part of Su Jinyi's high status in the circle was because she was a member of the Su family. And the Su family? Everyone knew Su Nanjing was a good friend of Jianghu Lai. Back in the courtyard, Su Juling called Su Nanjing, his eyes slightly narrowed. What have you been doing these past few days? You got news so fast? On the other end of the phone, Su Nanjing sat at the bar, elbow resting on the counter, lips curved in a smirk. I've landed a deal that, if successful, means you won't have to worry about lab supplies for the coming year. This was indeed a big deal, and Su Juling narrowed his eyes slightly. You need to be careful with this matter. Your second uncle might know about it. Don't worry, Su Nanjing squinted his eyes. Monday. A few scores were released first. This time, it was an internal exam at Xianxia No. 1 High School. The questions, formulated by the grade-level academic teams, were not difficult. There wasn't a significant gap in the high scores. Mathematics was relatively easy compared to the final exam. Bai Lian and Ning Xiao both achieved perfect scores, and even Tang Ming aced the test. In class 15, the math teacher glanced over the students with a smile, instructing the papers to be distributed. Everyone did quite well this time, and the improvement in math is rapid. If you have any questions, feel free to come to me. Wang Qi came over, saw that Bai Lian and Ning Xiao got perfect scores again after English, muttered, terrifying, and returned to his seat. The questions were somewhat easy for Bai Lian and Ning Xiao. Therefore Bai Lian didn't gain an advantage in mathematics and physics. After school in the afternoon, a group from class 15 walked together. Not far away, students from class 8 were also gathered. Class 8 was full of tough kids, either from wealthy families or families with power, many of whom had private tutors. Everyone only checked their own scores for the end-of-term joint exam and did not know other scores. But Ning Xiao becoming first in place of Chen Zhu during a few monthly tests last semester was alarming. Therefore, almost everyone in class 8 had been taking supplementary classes during the winter break. Winter break was also a chance to pull ahead. The last two subjects' results will probably be out tomorrow. I wonder how much Bai Lian and Ning Xiao scored, said the class 8 monitor, who used to be close to Xianxia's eyes. With a buzz cut, his gaze landed on Bai Lian in front of him, his voice lowered. Did Bai Lian hire a private tutor over the winter break? Upon hearing this, Chen Zhu, who was with Ran Wanxian, also paused in his steps. Looking toward Bai Lian's side. No, Ran Wanxian, holding her backpack, squinted toward Ning Xiao and Bai Lian, and finally rested her gaze on Bai Lian. She went to Zhongjing for a wedding. Ran Wanxian knew this from Ran Qian. The Su family had not extended an invitation to the Ran family. Hearing this comment, Chen Zhu was momentarily stirred. He and Ran Wanxian had been staying home, studying with the family tutor from Beijing, not missing a single day. Ran Qian had high hopes for Ran Wanxian, and the tutor they hired was among the best in Beijing. Vacations meant relaxation for other students, but for Ran Wanxian and Chen Zhu, it was an optimal time to fill in the gaps. Zhongjing, then you definitely want score higher than her this time, the class 8 monitor said to Chen Zhu, chuckling. Ning Xiao's family surely can't afford a home tutor. Chen, you have a great chance. These weren't random speculations. Playing for winter break certainly wasn't the same as studying for it. Chen Zhu heard this and just shook his head. Not necessarily. Not far away. Wuxia noticed the looks from the students of Class 8, frowning. What are those people from Class 8 staring at us for? I don't know, Pu Xiaohan shrugged, playing with the camera in her hand. Their brains have always been a bit off. Tang Ming and Bai Lian were discussing a physics problem. Ning Xiao didn't pay attention to those people. Ning Xiao walked alongside the two, not talking much, only occasionally glancing at Bai Lian. The electric field comes down like this. Bai Lian's hand angled 45 degrees downward, under the sunlight, her fingertips glistening like jade. Looking at Tang Ming, imagine in your head how the path of Q and E would intersect. An idea struck Tang Ming and he slapped his forehead. Right, how did I not think of that? He took off his backpack and pulled out a practice workbook. Only then did Bai Lian slightly turn her head, fished out Bluetooth earbuds from her pocket, and while putting them on, she languidly looked at Ning Xiao. What did you want to say? It's just... Ning Xiao was inviting a friend to dinner for the first time. His eyes and voice both dropped, very quiet. My uncle wants to invite you to dinner to thank you. Do you have time? Chapter 434. 171st 3 are some kind of devils. Meet_1. Your uncle. Bai Lian was somewhat astonished. Ning Xiao nodded. Bai Lian remembered that man named Wang. It was the first time she had heard Ning Xiao mention his uncle. Ning Xiao was someone who inherently lacked affection, barely uttering a few words even in front of Grandma Wang. When Bai Lian last visited Ning Xiao's home, Grandma Wang's reaction was very agitated. Is this it? Bai Lian lowered her head to find an English reading app and pressed play. Just find a time that works for you. Ning Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. He was aloof, always speaking with a brooding tone. He hadn't had many friends before, and for over a decade, he had been a loner. Aside from Xianxia, not many in Class 15 dared to approach him. Before Bai Lian joined their class, Ning Xiao had never imagined he would eat hot pot with the people from Class 15. Looking over at Tang Ming and Pu Xiaohan's group, Ning Xiao thought of Wang Yufeng's request and felt a headache coming on. Wang Yufeng had asked him to invite all his friends to dinner. Tuesday. All 3 comprehensive science exams were handed out. Bai Lian found a moment to hand over her mind maps and study methods to Lu Lingxi. In the office, Lu Lingxi took the stack of papers and looked down. It's what we've compiled, and part of it was what Ning Xiao and Tang Ming had put together for Xianxia. Bai Lian looked at Lu Lingxi. With less than 4 months left, if they work hard, most students can score a few more points. With so many students in the school, there were those who had clear goals like Bai Lian and some like Xianxia. These materials would also be helpful to those with clear goals. Thank you all. Lu Lingxi hadn't expected that Bai Lian and her 2 companions would take the time to do this. She packed away the materials. I'll distribute them to each class right away. Every top student has their own study method, both efficient and fast. Back then, a student from Xiqing had shadowed their top scorer during college entrance exams and asked about study methods that ultimately helped get into Jianghu University. A story that also circulated online. Lu Lingxi knew these methods held significance for average students. As the grade director, she quickly convened a meeting with the class advisors. The class advisor of Class 8 took these materials and brought them to the class that afternoon, placing them on the lectern. These are study materials and methods provided by Teacher Lu. Anyone who needs to can come to me for a printout after class. Also, the initial test scores are out. You can come check your rankings after class if you're interested. After finishing, he picked up the exam papers and began discussing the physics multiple choice questions. This time, the physics questions weren't hard and the students in Class 8 performed well. After class, a crowd surged forward to see Chen Zhu's ranking. Chen Zhu Wanxian. Their seats had been changed. The class president of Class 8, now sitting in front of Chen Zhu, rested his hand on the table and leaned over to look at Chen Zhu, then glanced at Ran Wanxian sitting in the row next door. Are you two going to print those materials? Chen Zhu's dark eyes were fixed in the direction of the lectern, and he didn't respond immediately. Ran Wanxian hesitated. Heard through the grapevine, the class president's desk mate, a guy with a buzz cut, Bao Boyu, could barely suppress his laughter, that these study methods and materials are supposedly by Bai Lian and Ning Xiao's group. What? Chen Zhu's desk mate also laughed. I mean, what are they doing? Isn't this awkward? Are they sharing their study experiences? Who's going to print it? If you print it, remember to show me. Bao Boyu glanced at Chen Zhu, then said, I'm definitely not going. The class president didn't make any statement. Both Chen Zhu and Ran Wanxian had actually considered printing the materials, but upon hearing that it was compiled by Lien and her group, neither of them reacted. Ran Wanxian turned to Chen Zhu and asked quietly, Are you going on Saturday? Chen Zhu shook his head. Not sure. I don't know who it is, but my dad might go. Go where? Bao Boyu knew these two were better informed than most. The MK Club has booked Panshan Highway, Ran Wanxian explained indifferently to the others, for a friendly race. Booked Panshan Highway? The class president was surprised. Who has that kind of money? Chen Zhu murmured. MK, you guys search it. A few classmates who had their phones immediately started searching. The MK Club, a top-tier luxury motorcycle club in Jianghu, funded by the privileged scions of Jianghu. Damn, Bao Boyu was astonished. Why would they hold a friendly race in a place like ours? Neither Ran Wanxian nor Chen Zhu had an answer to that. It was then that the chatter from those who went up to the lectern to check the grades suddenly stopped. What happened? Bao Boyu looked over and then stood up, pushing through the crowd. While speaking and laughing, he said, What rankings for Chen Zhu and Wanxian this time? It can't be that Ning Xiao has surpassed them again. Chapter 435. 171st 3 are some kind of devils. Meet_2. Upon looking, he was too late to close his mouth. That was agape. Class 8 scores were always good, especially for people like Chen Zhu and Ran Wanxian. Last semester, Ning Xiao exceeded Chen Zhu in the midterm exam. However, at that time, Chen Zhu was at least the second in rank, but now, Bao Boyu looked at the names in the first row. Chen Zhu Chinese, 136, 1, 6 Math, 142, 1, 4 English, 141, 1, 4 Science Comprehensive, 281, 1, 4 Total Score, 700, 1, 4 Chen Zhu was almost first in every subject in class, as usual, with rankings almost the same in school and class, occasionally switching places with Ning Xiao. But now, he was consistently ranked fourth from the top in every subject. Both Chen Zhu and Ran Wanxian felt the disturbance on the podium and stepped forward to check the rankings. The latter half of the semester had been extremely stressful for Ran Wanxian, who had hired a tutor charging a hefty fee, and she had believed she would confidently be able to return to her former level alongside Chen Zhu, only to find, not only had she not recovered, but her ranking had even dropped. Chen Zhu stared intently at the number, for a long time before turning to find the class teacher in the office. Ran Wanxian followed suit. A wordless silence spread from the entire podium. After a long while, someone finally broke it. I only have 590 points, and with 700 points to be at fourth, I want to know, what kind of demonic scores are the top 3? The office. The class 8 homeroom teacher wasn't surprised to see Chen Zhu and Ran Wanxian. You've come. What are the scores for the top 3? Chen Zhu's face was exceptionally cold. He looked only at the homeroom teacher, his words terse. They're right here, take a look. The class 8 homeroom teacher handed another ranking sheet to Chen Zhu. Chen Zhu and Ran Wanxian looked down to see the overall ranking list. No. 1 Ning Xiao, 741 NO. 2 Bai Lian, 737 NO. 3 Tang Ming, 736. The top 3 had pulled away from Chen Zhu by 30 to 40 points, a stark difference in scores. The two stared at the paper, unable to snap back to reality for quite some time. How is this possible? Ran Wangshuan's face turned pale. She had worked so hard with Chen Zhu during the winter break, and now she felt a sense of powerlessness. Of course, what she and Chen Zhu didn't know was that this gap was actually not significant, given that math and physics were far too simple for Bai Lian and the rest. When it came to the difficulty level of the college entrance exam, the gap would be even more apparent. Evening. Bubble tea shop. Ning Xiao went home early, while Bai Lian, Tang Ming, Jianghu, and a few others were reviewing inside. Yang Lin still had 2 hours of classes to teach. The bubble tea shop was larger than ordinary stores, well decorated and affordable. Although its cakes were not as delicious as before, they still tasted better than most of the other stores, and most people still liked to come here for their purchases. Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen, two young masters, stood at the door, also quite a scene. Bai Lian sat by the window, concentrating on her problems. Not far away, two girls were using their phones to take pictures of the window. Did you get it? Got it, got it. Quick, take a picture for me. I want to be in the same frame as Sister Bai. When Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen arrived, they saw such a spectacle. Though they knew Bai Lian was attractive, wasn't this a bit much? Her popularity really is quite something, Su Nanjing said with a laugh once he saw it. Xiao Bingwen stood next to Su Nanjing, rather surprised. You seem to think highly of her. He knew Su Nanjing wasn't easy to get along with. Can't quite say. Su Nanjing took out a cigarette. From childhood, he was the kind of personality that couldn't be controlled by his family, warm yet wild, often hitting it off with those who shared some common interests. Bai Lian, seemingly a well-behaved student however, got along quite well with him. He entered and, as usual, ordered a few cups of bubble tea for Bai Lian and the others. Once Yang Lin completed the order, she turned to serve the next customer. After Su Nanjing left, a regular store employee finally withdrew his gaze from Su Nanjing. Yang Lin, do you know him? Not really. His clothes look really expensive, like my month's salary. The employee clicked his tongue and increased the pace of crushing ice. Another boy added, more like your year's salary. A month might not cut it. Su Nanjing didn't interrupt Bai Lian and the other's study session. The two were just waiting for Jianghu Lai. After most of the students from First High left, Jianghu Lai's car slowly arrived. It was getting dark late in Xianxia, and the sun hadn't set yet. In the twilight, Jianghu Lai's tall figure appeared both solitary and cold. A cursory glance swept over, causing Xiao Bingwen to instinctively avoid eye contact, struck with surprise. Was Jianghu Lai in a bad mood today? He didn't dare to look at Jianghu Lai again. Almost time, Su Nanjing put out his cigarette and stood up straight. The racetrack is cleaned up. Chael will definitely love this feast. Chapter 436. 171st 3 are some kind of devils. Meet_3. Jianghu Lai had just stepped out of the laboratory when he heard the statement and gave him a look. Well done. Scarce mineral resources on Earth were just so much, and it was not easy to pry a bit away from a family like Dawson's, with its profound heritage and affiliation with M country. It's on Saturday night, Su Nanjing raised an eyebrow, curling his lips. It should be quite a big event. Are you and Bai Lian planning to come? Xianxia was not as chaotic as Jiangjing, and with Jianghu Lai around, Su Nanjing faced almost no obstacles from start to finish. Everything was surprisingly relaxing. So much so that he even invited Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai to attend the grand banquet. Jianghu Lai walked towards the milk tea shop, his gaze falling on the glass window, his expression easing slightly. I'll ask her. Then she might not be willing, Su Nanjing pondered. She'd rather choose to study. 8 o'clock in the evening. Purist Street. Jianghu Lai took Bai Lian to the usual place. The street lights were bright, casting long shadows of the two. It wasn't late at this time and passers-by would greet Bai Lian from a distance. At the intersection, after sending off Bai Lian, Jianghu Lai paused, then reached into his coat pocket to take out a sandalwood box. What's this? Bai Lian looked down. Sandalwood, Jianghu Lai said calmly and succinctly, for helping with sleep. Bai Lian took it from him, looked up, the street lights casting hazy contours on her face. For sleep. In fact, even Ji Hung wasn't aware of her sleep issues. Yes, Jianghu Lai was reluctant to explain further, simply embracing her fully, resting his chin on her shoulder, his voice still clear and cool, his phoenix eyes slightly closed. Su Nanjing invited us to watch the race on Saturday night. A race? Bai Lian asked, clutching the wooden box, shadows cast on her face by the streetlight. What race? Motorcycle, I guess. Jianghu Lai knew about Su Nanjing's activity but didn't care much about it. If you don't want to go, let's have hot pot fish head on Saturday. Motorcycles? Bai Lian's eyes lit up slightly. Let's go. This was beyond Jianghu Lai's expectation. He looked down at her surprised. All right. Releasing his grip, he added softly. Go back, good night. Saturday. 11 o'clock in the morning. At Jianghu Lai's residence, the sun was gentle, and a mild breeze caressed the face. Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen sat in the wicker chairs outside, talking. Above them was the gazebo and the sunshine, Su Nanjing leaning back, his eyes slightly closed as he tapped his fingers on the armrest. How's Xiaoguo's practice coming along? I've asked Chael to look after the club. This race can't afford a single mistake. Su Nanjing being able to chat with Chael was in part due to sharing the same hobby. Don't worry, our people are keeping watch, Xiao Bingwen nodded, his expression serious. It hadn't been easy to approach Chael, and in all of Jiangjing, Su Nanjing was the first to reach this step. Who could have known that Chael would be hanging around the Azure Dragon Bar and would share the same hobby as Su Nanjing? Ming Dongheng was sitting next to Su Nanjing, his face cold, saying nothing. As the two talked, Bai Lian came out of the house, and Su Nanjing immediately looked over. Hi, little sister Bai Lian, done with your homework? By his side, Ming Dongheng picked up the keys on the table and stood up. Bai Lian greeted Su Nanjing in a lazy tone as well. It's almost time for dinner. Where are you going? Su Nanjing realized that Bai Lian was about to head out as he looked at Ming Dongheng. Today was the day Su Nanjing and Chael had organized a motorcycle chase. For this, he had prepared for 10 days. The group was planning to go to Panshan Highway just after lunch. Going to dine with classmates first, Bai Lian said, holding a canvas bag, smiling at him. Today, Uncle Ning Xiao was inviting Ning Xiao's classmates for a meal. Su Nanjing looked at Ming Dongheng saying, we happen to be heading to Panshan Highway earlier as well, Xiaoming, don't make an extra trip, it'll take little sister Bai Lian there. Ming Dongheng gripped the keys tightly. Half an hour later, Xiao Bingwen's car stopped in front of a very clean, old-fashioned local restaurant. This street was somewhat ancient and was not frequented by non-locals. Bai Lian got out from the back seat and said goodbye to Su Nanjing. Su Nanjing leaned out to watch as Bai Lian entered, then withdrew his gaze, noticing two burly men who had just gone in and feeling slightly surprised, as they looked like martial artists with extraordinary abilities. So many martial artists in Xianxia? It was out of the ordinary to see two such figures in a small restaurant. Xiao Bingwen also glanced over. This place is on the border. Mercenaries are common here. Su Nanjing nodded. The two continued their talk as the car drove away. On the second floor, in a private room, Pu Xiaohan and Tang Ming had arrived 10 minutes before Bai Lian. Wang Yufeng was wearing a more amicable outfit today, and he greeted Ning Xiao's two classmates with a smile. Ning Xiao has a difficult personality, please be forgiving of him. Ning Xiao sat by his side, his face cold, silent. Uncle, it's because the academic god was willing to hang out with us and even explained problems to us. Pu Xiaohan expressed his gratitude to Ning Xiao. Our class ranked first in the average score for the midterm exams, all thanks to him. Wang Yufeng was surprised. He glanced at Ning Xiao and then asked, didn't you say there was another classmate coming? Why hasn't the person arrived? Ning Xiao looked down at the time. She's here. As Wang Yufeng wondered how Ning Xiao could be so certain, the next second, the door to the private room was knocked on 3 times, and Tang Ming, who was sitting by the door, opened it. Chapter 437. 171 Are your requirements high? Second update. _1. Wang Yufeng knew the last one to arrive was the student teaching Ning Xiao the techniques. By Tang Ming's side, Pu Xiaohan's eyes also lit up. Lian is here. Ning Xiao by Wang Yufeng's side also sat up straight. This made Wang Yufeng feel strange. It seemed that the last student was the leader of this little group. Just who was this person that could even captivate someone with Ning Xiao's personality? Just as he was thinking this, the person outside had already walked in. The newcomer was dressed in a loose lead white top and dark blue long pants, which looked somewhat like national-style training attire. A pair of wooden hairpins held up the long hair at the back of the head. She was casually carrying a canvas bag, with wisps of hair falling lightly across her forehead, and her ink-dyed eyebrows and eyes appeared relaxed yet cool. Although her style was different, Wang Yufeng recognized her. Wasn't this the girl who had saved him in the alley and then met his godmother? What a coincidence. Bai Lian, Wang Yufeng stood up and smiled at Bai Lian. So you're also Ning Xiao's classmate? Pu Xiaohan turned curiously. Uncle Wang, you know each other? Yes, we met at my godmother's house. Wang Yufeng did not mention the incident in the alley, only saying, previously when his grandmother accidentally fell, It was Bai Lian who brought her. Ning Xiao didn't know about this. He once again thanked Bai Lian, who had just transferred to their school at that time, and he did not know her yet. Pu Xiaohan and Tang Ming, who were still a bit restrained, were initially somewhat afraid of Wang Yufeng due to the tattoos that were faintly visible on his neck, but now that Bai Lian had arrived and they all knew each other, the atmosphere immediately relaxed. Classmates, add Uncle's WeChat. Wang Yufeng took out his phone, amicably adding Tang Ming and Pu Xiaohan's WeChat. If you need anything in the future, you can look for Uncle. All right. Both obediently took out their phones. When Wang Yufeng heard that Pu Xiaohan was a senior, he was momentarily stunned, and then looked at Ning Xiao. You're a senior already? He felt a bit embarrassed. He had brought back practice problems for freshmen on this trip. Ning Xiao. What else? Wang Yufeng felt a bit embarrassed and changed the subject. Is the college entrance exam coming up soon? All four of you need to work hard. After the meal, Wang Yufeng seemed particularly happy, and they only finished eating a little later than planned. He and Bai Lian lingered behind, and Wang Yufeng took out a cigarette. My godmother's condition is not good. She is conscious less and less, and I don't know how long she can hold on. You should spend more time with Ning Xiao. The last time Bai Lian took her grandmother's pulse, the signs had already been faint and weak. As they talked, the group parted ways at the door. Wang Yufeng watched Bai Lian and the others leave and then thought that he hadn't yet asked about Ning Xiao's grades. Where are you planning to apply? He turned around, asking casually. He planned to arrange things for Ning Xiao in advance. Ning Xiao, Jianghu University. Wang Yufeng. Seriously. Although he didn't finish middle school, he knew that this was not a university just anyone could get into. At 6 in the evening, Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai arrived at Panshan Highway. The Panshan Highway in Xianxia is located in the north of the city. Although it was only 6 o'clock, the entire Panshan Highway was already lit up with colorful lights and banners, and the grandstands on either side of the starting station had been renovated, sparkling in splendor. In the middle of the road were motorcycle enthusiasts from various countries. This was the second time Bai Lian felt there could be so many people. She was holding her phone. Miss Zhang, you're here. Su Nanjing didn't have time, so Xiao Bingwen, accompanied by others, came down to bring Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai to the viewing platform. There are 3 layers in the spectators' stand. The bottom layer had seating for regular spectators, as well as media reporters. The middle was for monitoring facilities and a giant screen, which would project live footage for those below. Many people were below, recording the giant screen with their phones. The third floor was the VIP room, with a small section for a tea break room in the middle. Xiao Bingwen took Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai to the viewing platform, instructed the people outside to take good care of them, and then hurried away. Bai Lian saw there was a balcony and walked over. From the balcony, she could see the cheerleaders below, the huge screen opposite, and the audience on the first floor. The music and voices from below were booming. Jianghu Lai stood beside Bai Lian for a while, leaning slightly against the balcony, his eyebrows lowered. I thought you weren't interested in these kinds of things. It's all right, Bai Lian casually propped her hands on the balcony, her gaze fixed on a black motorcycle below, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. I've watched it sometimes. Outside, someone knocked on the door. It was Xiao Bingwen's man, Xiao Lei. Mr. Zhang, Miss Bai, here are some refreshments. He placed a small dish on the little table on the balcony. Seeing that Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai had no other instructions, he went back downstairs. He was very respectful. The sun was gradually setting, and streetlights were lighting up one by one, illuminating the entire Panshan Highway as if it were broad daylight, making the crowd below even more excited. Jianghu Lai wasn't interested in motorcycles. He took out his laptop and placed it on the table, talking to Bai Lian while also checking his computer. The friendly match would start at 7:28 p.m. At 7 p.m., after Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen finished greeting people, they finally found a chance to say hello to Bai Lian and Jianghu Lai. Su Nanjing sat opposite Jianghu Lai and drank a large glass of water. It's not easy. Chael seems to love this scene. He's chatting with the racers downstairs. Jianghu Lai closed his laptop and started to talk business with Su Nanjing. Is everything arranged? You still don't trust me? Su Nanjing smiled. Jianghu Lai didn't say anything, just gave him a light glance. Su Nanjing, That matter with physics doesn't count. Bai Lian was still lying lazily on the balcony, listening to English and looking at the cars below. Xiao Bingwen stood by Su Nanjing's side, his posture also much more relaxed now. Just at that moment, someone knocked on the door. Xiao Bingwen went to open it. It was Xiao Yilei. He whispered something in Xiao Bingwen's ear, and Xiao Bingwen's expression suddenly changed. What's wrong? Su Nanjing, holding a glass, looked over casually. Xiao Bingwen's expression was cold. Xiaoguo went back to Jianghu. Su Nanjing gripped the glass tightly, his tone becoming particularly dangerous. Back to Jianghu? When did he leave? This afternoon he said he wanted to take another lap to familiarize himself with the route. Xiao Bingwen pursed his lips. He must have gone back then. No substitute racer? Jiang Fulai tapped his fingers on the table, narrowing his eyes. Su Nanjing shook his head, looking quite troubled. There are not many in the club who dare to run this stretch. Besides Xiaoguo, there's one other person, but he can't run the whole thing. I personally recruited him. I didn't expect him to leave at this time. Jiang Fulai's gaze fell on Su Nanjing, coolly asking, Do you know who's behind this? Su Nanjing tilted his head back and gave a bitter smile. It must be an inside job. Thanks to Su Juming's reminder, Su Nanjing had also prepared well for Su Juming's moves. He took precautions against the people around Chail and made sure nothing happened on his watch. The only thing he didn't expect was betrayal from within his ranks. This business matter was crucial. Su Nanjing felt that his uncle wouldn't be so foolish, and it was his own fault for getting too comfortable with everything going too smoothly in Xianxia, lowering his guard. Jiang Fulai, looking at Bai Lian who was practicing her English words, lowered his voice. Let's talk inside. He stood up and went inside. The atmosphere downstairs was exhilarating. But in this room on the third floor, the atmosphere was very oppressive. Jiang Fulai and Su Nanjing were inside. Xiao Bingwen did not dare to go in, but his face also couldn't be said to be good. I should have not left his side. No one could have anticipated this. Xiao Yilei clenched his fists in anger. Xiaoguo's betrayal is just despicable. Bai Lian tilted her head and looked at the backs of Jiang Fulai and Su Nanjing. She asked Xiao Bingwen, Is it that serious missing one person? How could it not be serious? This was Su Nanjing's big opportunity to get on good terms with Chail, concerning rare metals and international trade. Explaining all this to Bai Lian might be futile since she probably wouldn't understand. Xiao Bingwen, pressing at his brow, suppressed his irritation and explained to Bai Lian, If this matter isn't handled well, things will be even harder for Nanjing in the Su family. The Su family members scrutinize his every move, and his uncle has always been against him. Bai Lian took off her headphones, her hand lazily resting on the balcony, listening to Xiao Bingwen's explanation. It was now 7:18 p.m., and the staff knocked at the door. Third young master Chail is asking when you will come down. As soon as the words were spoken, the atmosphere in the room sank even lower. The match would start at 7:28 p.m. Chail must have already reported this incident to Grandpa, Xiao Yilei added from the side, and then he sighed. If only we had a racer familiar with the route right now. There were no motorcycle clubs in Xianxia, and the routes on Panshan Highway were complex. There weren't many who ran them, so finding someone familiar with the route on short notice was not easy. After Xiao Yilei finished speaking, Bai Lian thought for a moment, How high are your requirements? She wasn't professional. She had only run this Panshan Highway with Mao Kuan and the others. When she needed to blow off steam, she would either go to a fight club or drive here. Su Nanjing had given her things before. If their requirements weren't high, she could race a stretch. Of course, she wasn't professional, but she was wild enough. Chapter 438. 172 Wild Blueberry _1. It's not high level, they're all amateurs, Xiao Bingwen said softly, and it was precisely because of this that no one expected issues to arise. There are 9 racers. Chail likes the number 9. Just completing the race is enough. Su Nanjing found 3 capable racers, one of whom was his most trusted Xiaoguo, while Xiao Bingwen had people keeping an eye on the other 2, excluding Su Nanjing's most trusted Xiaoguo. Chail may act like brothers with Su Nanjing, but striking a business deal wasn't easy. Or else Su Nanjing wouldn't have gone to such great lengths to construct a racetrack. How important it was to accompany Chael goes without saying. Even Su Nanjing was on edge. Despite having invested so much to raise the caliber, they were one short at the final moment. And on the crucial number, 9 at that. Bai Lian turned off the app on her phone and slowly flexed her wrist. Then I can do it. Xiao Bingwen was pondering the likelihood of finding a substitute to complete the full race when he heard Bai Lian's statement. What? He looked Bai Lian up and down. Compared to Jianghu Lai, Bai Lian was undoubtedly more introverted, with a loose white shirt on her exuding a mysterious artist vibe. So much so that when Bai Lian spoke, Xiao Bingwen never associated her with riding a motorcycle. Inside the house, Jianghu Lai was wearing a casual white jacket today, his naturally stern aura more prominent. His gaze solely on Bai Lian, the corner of his lips tensed. No! Su Nanjing too was startled by Bai Lian's words. Little sister Bai Lian? This is a motorcycle we're talking about. If there were many willing to ride tonight, Su Nanjing wouldn't have been in such a passive position. He had even thought about letting that substitute who couldn't finish the race take part. Even though they weren't race bikes, the motorcycles Su Nanjing prepared for today also had 1,000 cubic centimeters engines, although their top speeds didn't reach that of professional race bikes. Inherently dangerous. Not to mention Jianghu Lai, Su Nanjing also would not let Bai Lian ride, and given Bai Lian's appearance, she hardly looked like someone who could ride a motorcycle. Bai Lian nodded. I'm aware I can ride. The timing was off, but when Bai Lian said she could ride a motorcycle, Su Nanjing too was incredibly surprised. Next time I'll take you for a ride. Let's forget about today. This isn't a joke. Moreover, Su Nanjing didn't dare look back at Jianghu Lai beside him. He felt the chill coming from Jiang exude almost visibly. Real racing was a rider's game. They were not afraid of death. Su Nanjing was a true car enthusiast and understood the dangers involved. Don't you need someone familiar with the Panshan Highway? Bai Lian's gaze drifted towards the racetrack outside. She made a rough estimate. I've run this track no less than 100 times. I could do it with my eyes closed. Jianghu Lai's expression darkened. When did you run it? I used to run it a lot in the beginning. Bai Lian knew who really called the shots among them. Now I've been focusing on studying mostly, but I'll be careful. It's been a long time since I last ran. After all, Bai Lian redirected her gaze, her dark pupils turned to Jianghu Lai. Her voice almost imperceptible. I value my life highly now. Jianghu Lai just stood in front of her, knowing a little about motorcycles because Su Nanjing liked them. An outsider like him only sensed danger, the kind where one mistake at that speed was irreversible. He looked steadily at Bai Lian. Be careful. Su Nanjing had thought that Jianghu Lai would be the most determined to stop Bai Lian, but in the end, it was Jianghu Lai who was the most indulgent. Nanjing, Xiao Bingwen watched Bai Lian go to get changed and grab a helmet, feeling very uneasy. Are you sure it's okay? Su Nanjing pulled out a cigarette, his gaze resting on Jianghu Lai in front of him. The usual relaxed air about him was absent. I don't know. If it hadn't been for Bai Lian speaking up today, he wouldn't have had any clue that she could ride motorcycles. Downstairs. The starting race track. 7:25. Su Nanjing went downstairs to greet Chael, a foreigner with chestnut hair and deep brown eyes. Su Nanjing communicated fluently in English. Sorry, we had a little problem with our people, but they will be here shortly. Chael held a champagne glass in one hand, his eyes squinting a bit as he observed Su Nanjing. All right. Su Nanjing watched Chael's expression closely, his heart sinking slightly, realizing that someone had already informed Chael about the issue in advance. The 8 motorcycles ahead. Orange, fiery red, ice blue. Each motorcycle had a person standing beside it. In the cheering crowd, a person in a fisherman's hat pressed an earpiece, bowed his head. They haven't put up a substitute. Chapter 439. 172 Wild Blueberry _2. On the other end of the earpiece, Jiang Jing. The middle-aged man put the phone on speaker. Su Jueming played with the bird in the cage. After listening to the person on the other side of the phone, he said with an ambiguous tone, It's a pity that Mr. Chael is destined to be disappointed. It's not just Mr. Chael who will be disappointed. The middle-aged man hung up the phone. Yes, Su Jueming smiled slightly. My respected father, he is going to announce his next successor at his birthday banquet. I wonder what he will think tomorrow. Considering whether the old Master Su could live a few more years, skipping over Su Jueming, Su Jueling, he only had high hopes for Su Nanjing. The middle-aged man bowed his head. Second Master, I asked my son to rush back. What do you think? Rest assured, Su Jueming took down the birdcage and glanced at him. You won't miss out on the benefits. Tidy up your things and go to the product department tomorrow. As he played with the bird, he walked back along the corridor. After the man left, someone carefully asked the middle-aged man, Manager Gua, doing this, won't you offend the third young master? Everyone knew that Su Nanjing was on the rise. If it weren't for motor racing, Guo Huai might not even have the chance to meet Su Nanjing. The third young master? The middle-aged man squinted slightly. Guo Huai has been following behind him for 8 years. What has he gained apart from being a racing driver? I've been with the Su family for so many years, yet I've been demoted instead of promoted. Even without offending him, a person like him wouldn't consider us anyway. It's better to take a gamble. This was the opportunity he had waited 8 years for. And, the middle-aged man said, a smile forming on his face, after today, the third young master will have to bow down in the Su family. Whether the Su family belongs to the second master or the third young master, it remains to be seen. He seemed to see the boundless wealth of his future. 727. The first floor. Jianghu Lai had also come down, his gaze fixed on the big screen. From this angle he could only chase the camera's view on the screen later on. By his side, Xiao Bingwen still felt like he was dreaming. Hesitantly he said to Su Nanjing, Can she really do it? While keeping an eye on Chael's movements, Su Nanjing shook his head. I don't know, Chael has already found out. What? Xiao Bingwen pursed his lips, realizing his voice was too loud. He lowered his voice. So there's no hope for today? 99%, I guess, Su Nanjing said casually as he watched the racetrack. There was still 1% chance, on Bai Lian. Brother Jiang, Su Nanjing went to ask Jianghu Lai. You haven't seen her race before either. Jianghu Lai's face wasn't looking too good either. He just nodded slightly. Su Nanjing was also getting anxious now. The roar of engines started up, and a black motorcycle rolled out of the garage. The person on the bike wore a black and white motorcycle suit, a black helmet, which wasn't very form-fitting. She leaned slightly forward on the upper body, casually supporting herself against the fuel tank with her legs. She suddenly stopped at the starting point. Su Nanjing was startled. This posture looked like she really knew how to lean into the curves and race. Because she was the last to appear, the camera gave her a close-up. She was still wearing her helmet, legs loosely touching the ground, her upper body casually leaning forward, very relaxed movements, yet inexplicably powerful. The camera focused on her pair of jet-black beautiful eyes. Am I seeing things? A female rider? Who is this person? Have any of you heard of her? It was the first time the audience at the race had seen a female rider, and they were abuzz with discussions. Su Nanjing was tightly wound inside, but he smiled and said to Chael, This is my sister, she's only recently learned. Your sister? Chael was surprised, which allowed Su Nanjing to read some expression on his face. He could tell that Bai Lian wasn't a newbie, nor someone Su Nanjing had found at the last minute to fob him off. That's just too cool. She might not perform well, Su Nanjing observed Chael's expression, finally adding with a smile, Don't mind. Bai Lian watched the red flag fall, squeezed the front brake, compressed the suspension, engaged the clutch and the gear, revving up the engine. 3, 2, 1. As soon as the lights came on, she gunned the throttle and took off. Actually, her speed wasn't fast, and the red motorcycle was first to squeeze into the bend, with the white bike accelerating to overtake between second and third place. The commentator's voice was also very excited. We see the black bike currently in fourth, very steady. The yellow bike has completely blocked her path. The battle between first and second is heating up. Look at the white bike go for the overtake. The bend at the starting line wasn't big, and Bai Lian maintained a moderate speed throughout. It wasn't until the first left bend that Bai Lian took to the middle of the road, as she always did when riding this mountain road at night, because sometimes there would be other cars, and it offered a better view. Now it was the same. At the left bend, Bai Lian's dark eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward to minimize the wind resistance. With a gentle push of her left hand, the bike instantly tilted left, creating an acute angle with the ground. Having studied physics, Bai Lian naturally understood. If the speed was fast enough, she could lean lower through the bend. The camera switched to her just in time to see her bike, at high speed, almost blur, making it hard to see her clearly, but the viewers knew that the bike was at a sharp angle with the ground, nearly touching it with her clothes as she passed. Gasps of amazement came from the crowd periodically. The racetrack had a total of 15 bends. The race lasted less than 20 minutes, and Bai Lian was too familiar with this road. Just as she had said, she could run it with her eyes closed. Quick, we have the black bike. Last 2 bends and she's going to overtake 3rd place? The commentator was passionately exclaiming. The last 2 bends. A left followed by a right. The biggest and most difficult section of the entire track. If not managed well, one could either crash or drift off the track, and the first 3 riders were also braking to control their speed, except Bai Lian, whose speed remained unchanged. She rested her heels on the foot pegs, adjusting her posture to control the bike's center of gravity. The black motorcycle under her command was like a nimble warhorse, leaning into and pressing through the bends, leaving a trail of sparks and flash on the outer track. Look, she's passed one. Let's see if she can hold on to 3rd place. On the final lap, the camera was fixed on her. With the high-pitched screech of rubber on asphalt, the red bike stopped at the finish line, followed swiftly by the black bike cutting through the bend past the original 2nd-place yellow motorcycle, ZZZT. Stopping at the finish line. On the big screen, the intense battle made it impossible to pay attention to anyone else. All eyes saw the black bike resting next to the red one, with the rider in a white and black racing suit casually resting one hand on the cool-colored fairing and the other pulling off her helmet, as her legs supported her against the ground. Her dark hair was loosely tied at the back of her head with a band, and under the slanted white lights, the loose strands were lifted by the wind, turning her tumbled dark hair luminous with a pale yellow glow. Her cool gaze inadvertently swept towards the camera, aloof yet wild. It was a rebelliousness etched in her very bones. Chapter 440. 173. Your answer has been recorded as the standard answer. Second update. _1. The girl's face on the big screen was magnified. Her cool, slender fingers held a helmet, with a wisp of red visible on her wrist. Even through the distant lens, one could feel the tension in her entire being. A swagger unique to her age. At the starting track, the crowd fell silent for a moment before cheers erupted suddenly, like a rolling heat wave. It was uncommon to see female riders on the racetrack, even more rare to see one with such strength, especially a 3rd kind, one that was so good-looking. Sue, that was amazing. Chael's deep brown eyes burst with intense color as he excitedly turned to Su Nanjing beside him. Oh, your sister is really so surprising. Chael laughed heartily as he patted Su Nanjing's shoulder. You people from Flower Country are just too humble. He used several exclamation points to express his astonishment and satisfaction. The last 2 laps of the duel were a feast for motorcycle enthusiasts. Su Nanjing caught on, and he replied to Chael with a smile. I'm glad you liked it. His expression was calm, but inside, Su Nanjing felt like a drop of water in a frying pan. Of course, Chael looked toward the finish line. Does your sister have time? I'd like to meet her. She, said Su Nanjing as he saw that Jianghu was no longer there, and apologetically told Chael, she's in her senior year of high school, making time to come was already difficult, she needs to return to do her schoolwork. That's too bad, Su. Let's then talk about the collaboration, Chael persisted enthusiastically. The red car belonged to Chael's team and won 1st place. Chael was very satisfied, propelling the collaboration that Su Nanjing had in mind right onto the agenda. The two returned to the VIP room, and behind them, Xiao Bingwen and Xiao Yilei exchanged glances, seeing disbelief in each other's eyes. Miss Bai, she... Xiao Yilei couldn't find the right adjective and ended up with just one word, she's fierce. Xiao Bingwen reminisced about those unruly eyes on the big screen and exhaled deeply. But, this time it seems we've turned a mishap into a blessing, Xiao Yilei gripped his fist, looking at Xiao Bingwen with excitement. The 3rd young master has secured the collaboration. After Guo Huai left, someone informed Chael, which displeased him, and then Bai Lian emerged out of the blue, showcasing a classic bend press in the last 2 tracks, performing with such stellar technique right behind the red car. With all these factors in play, an elated Chael agreed to Su Nanjing's terms. If Gua Huai had not left and everything had proceeded as usual, Chael wouldn't have agreed so quickly, and it would have taken at least another month of negotiations. After today, her status in Nanjing's heart might surpass that of Su Jini, Xiao Bingwen commented softly. With Zhang Fulai around, very much to Su Nanjing's liking, skilled in motorcycles, securing a deal with Chael. Xiao Bingwen thought, it might no longer be a might. The title of Miss of Xinjiang District, owned by Su Jini, might have to make way for by Lian after she entered Jiangjing. Not far off. In the crowd, the class monitor of the 8th class came to his senses and nudged Chen Zhu beside him. Chen, that's Bai Lian, right? But the screen now displayed a defiant, self-indulgent face, and he hesitated to recognize it. Chen Zhu stared at the screen, which now showed an advertisement, and said nothing. Bai Lian returned to the rest area over here. Zhang Fulai was already waiting for her at the door after the bend press. Her mood was good and she took off the hair tie from the back of her head, reaching out to him. Where's the hairpin? Obviously, she couldn't wear the hairpins with a helmet, so Bai Lian had Zhang Fulai remove them. Zhang Fulai still looked aloof and serene. Even in casual white clothes, he exuded an air of refined elegance. His fingers pinched 2 wooden hairpins, eyes downcast, signaling Bai Lian to sit. Bai Lian sat on the sofa, with Zhang Fulai standing behind her. His articulate fingers threaded through her black hair, his movements slow and methodical, gathering a bunch of hair smoothly. Do you know how? Bai Lian felt him fiddling with her hair and leaned back slightly onto the sofa, a hint of doubt in her voice. Zhang Fulai responded nonchalantly with downturned eyes, tying half of the hair behind her back. The first attempt wasn't smooth, but by the second, head found his rhythm. I just watched it. Zhang Fulai twirled the dark hair around the wooden pin, his movements gentle, his voice soft. The process was very cool. His earnest compliment. Bai Lian lounged lazily on the sofa, not rushing him. But Zhang Fulai gently inserted the hairpin into her hair. It was loose but anyhow bound together. Then he paused and picked up the second hairpin. It's very dangerous. Chapter 441. 173. Your answer has been recorded as the standard answer. Second update. _2. He paused, then uttered 3 words. Su Nanjing knew how to race, but Zhang Fulai had never seen a racing scene before. Today was because it was Bai Lian's first time watching. The whole process was extremely perilous. Especially in the last 2 bends, Bai Lian's reckless attitude nearly left Zhang Fulai out of breath, while everyone else cheered. Zhang Fulai put on her second hairpin, as her loose hair seemed a bit more secure. But not as neat as when she did it herself. He glanced at her, then slowly turned to face her, squatting down slowly to meet her eyes. There was always a touch of aloofness between his eyebrows, but today it had softened slightly. Zhang Fulai said softly, even if you have to ride a bike, can you go a bit slower next time? Those light-colored eyes, like glass beads, watched her quietly, earnest and persistent. Otherwise, I'll tell your grandfather, he added. Bai Lian. Fine. Give me a piece of paper and a pen, Bai Lian urged Zhang Fulai. I have some inspiration. The life and death speed had sparked a burst of creativity in Bai Lian that she was eager to record while she still remembered it. When Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen finished up and returned, Bai Lian was writing something on a piece of paper, sitting by the window with her head down and a lamp shining above her. Well, leave in a bit. Zhang Fulai glanced at Su Nanjing and Xiao Bingwen. Su Nanjing walked over for a look. Not leaving now? Bai Lian was drawing something, likely numbers, certainly something Su Nanjing had never seen before. Xiao Bingwen didn't dare to wander off, staying quietly to the side. His current demeanor towards Bai Lian was even more respectful than before, as she had displayed enough to command respect. Let's wait until she's done. Zhang Fulai reopened his laptop, the fluorescent light casting a cool glow on his face. Without her gouging, Bai Lian could only roughly jot down her inspiration. 9 o'clock. Xiao Bingwen drove back. Bai Lian and Zhang Fulai sat in the spacious rear seat. Yen Lu's next song was promising, and it was only then that Bai Lian felt in the mood to open the app, causing the screen plugin to activate as well. She randomly opened her account. The monthly rankings scrolled down. No. 1 Liang Wuyu 48800NO. 2 Su Jiuf 45112NO16. Ning Xiao 35587NO. 37 Song Min 32589NO. 43 Tang Ming 30178NO. 261 by Xiaoqi 22493NO. 852 by Gen 0. What should have been an overwhelming flood of private messages was now nowhere to be seen. Bai Lian's app hesitated for a moment before restoring smooth operation. She glanced at her points, clicked into this month's question bank. With each question worth 100 points, she hadn't done any, and the first one she came across was mathematics. A problem asking for the range of values for blanks. In a quadratic equation with one variable, ABC represents a triangle. She needed to find the range of BC. Scanning over it, Bai Lian roughly knew how to proceed and opened the drawing board on her phone to begin calculations. In the driver's seat, Xiao Bingwen turned on the music. In the car, Yan Lu's voice started to play, making Bai Lian instinctively look up. In the passenger seat, Su Nanjing was now vigorously attentive to Bai Lian's every move. Seeing her look up, he immediately perked up. "Sister Bai Lian, you know this song too? It's by the singer Xiao Bingwen likes." Yan Lu. Xiao Bingwen glanced at the rearview mirror and replied politely. Bringing up his favorite singer, he added, "This song would sound even better played on a guzheng." As the guzheng was mentioned, Su Nanjing remembered that Bai Lian could play it too. He said to her with a smile, "Sister Bai Lian, he has a childhood friend who's studying the guzheng with a famous teacher. Maybe he can introduce you to her sometime." "You mean Shuha?" Xiao Bingwen's expression softened a bit at the mention of this person. "That's right," Su Nanjing told Bai Lian. "There are many good guzheng teachers in Jianghu. If you're serious about wanting to study the guzheng," he chatted on. Bai Lian lowered her head, turned to the next problem, and said candidly, "I'm just interested in the guzheng. I hadn't thought about studying it seriously." Her only love now was studying. Otherwise, why would Director Jian think that the only option was for her to return to Jianghu? "Being good at guzheng can be useful too," Xiao Bingwen picked up the conversation. "Shuha is very talented, and her teacher holds her in high regard. I heard she's going to meet with old Master Chen." Su Nanjing shrugged. He wasn't particularly interested in the guzheng but had heard of Lung Shu's reputation. They arrived at Purist Street. Jiang Fulai escorted Bai Lian down. Su Nanjing looked at the low houses on Purist Street, guessing that Jiang Fulai would be a while before returning, so he got out of the car to smoke by the door. Xiao Bingwen came down on the other side. The two discussed the day's events. "When the time comes, give some scarce materials to Master Ma," Xiao Bingwen estimated roughly, speaking to Su Nanjing. "What do you think of the chances he agrees to let Professor Huang come on as an honorary professor?" Chapter 442. 173. Your answer has been recorded as the standard answer. Second update. _3. He still hadn't given up. "If academician Moss materials aren't enough, he'll turn to young Master Jiang, unless you come up with something that truly excites him." Su Nanjing flicked the ash from his cigarette and shook his head. "If he were so accessible, he wouldn't be known as the clear stream among academicians. One who joins no power and focuses solely on research. His own achievements, the medals he has received. Even old Master Chen treats him with great respect when they meet. What are you planning to do about Guahuai?" Xiao Bingwen remembered the matter at hand. Su Nanjing's eyes turned cold. "My second uncle got the news so fast, I'm sure he'll soon find out about my negotiation with Chael tomorrow. If he knew the collaboration was pushed forward by a fortuitous mistake." In Jiheng's courtyard. It was Saturday, and Jianghu had been with Jiheng all day, swinging his legs as he watched Jiheng draw the designs. Seeing Bai Lian return, Jiheng looked at her hair. "Where have you been? Your hair is a mess." Bai Lian almost wanted to laugh but held it in. "Jogging. There's supper." Knowing Bai Lian loved to exercise, Jiheng simply pointed at the pot and continued to focus on his drawing. Bai Lian took the supper back to her room, took out the guzheng and a sheet of paper, and refined the piece inspired by the night's musings. This musical composition was also nearing completion. Unlike the previous two, Bai Lian intended this one to be a boisterous feast. Wary of disturbing the neighbors, she lightly pressed the strings, planning to refine the piece in the next 2 days. After roughly adjusting the piece, she picked up her smartphone and slowly worked on the exercises from the app. No one knew that NO. 852s by Jen had climbed to NO. 598 in just one night. Monday. After school. At the school gate. Class 8 also noticed the standout by Lian. What are you doing? Bao Boyu, who was seated beside her, slung on his backpack and glanced at the class president. The president hesitated and lowered his voice. I'm going back to print out the study methods and materials from Bai Lian and Ning Xiao. You coming? As soon as he spoke, Bao Boyu hurriedly looked towards Chen Zhu and Ren Wanxian in front, then finally said, Are you really going? Yeah. The president, recalling what he had seen the night before in the school rankings, said, You know, all 3 of them scored 730 points. So what? Even if you read it, can you score 30 in 3 months? Bao Boyu whispered. Could you possibly get into Beijing University? You'd be better off currying favor with Ran Wanxian and young Master Chen. Both of their grades weren't far off, but there was still a long way to go to reach Beijing University. The class president paused. What if? I'm going to print it out. Aren't you coming? Bao Boyu helplessly gave him a look, as Bai Lian seemed to have some inexplicable power of faith within the school. Not going. Then I'll go alone. The president left quietly. Up ahead. Bai Lian held her smartphone, scrolling through questions on the screen when she saw Su Nanjing waiting outside. He was talking on his phone while watching the flow of people. On the other end of the phone was Gao Yan. You owe a big favor for this. Did young Master Jiang hit you? It's fine, Su Nanjing touched his nose, laughing. Anyway, you are the only one who needs to know about this. As for the rest, arrange as you see fit. First, find me about 10 home tutors. Chale played a significant part in this, and Gao Yan had been considering taking Bai Lian as her goddaughter. Hearing this news, she sighed. She truly is your lucky star. Don't worry. I've reserved her a spot for the future. Why don't you ask her again if she's interested in becoming my goddaughter? Su Nanjing just laughed. That I don't know. As Bai Lian approached, she heard him on the call but didn't interrupt. Su Nanjing's gaze briefly sharpened. He caught a glimpse of a familiar page on Bai Lian's smartphone. Politely, Su Nanjing told Gao Yan, I'll call you back later. After saying that, he hung up the phone, eyes fixed on Bai Lian's smartphone. Little sister Bai Lian, what's that on your phone? This. When asked, Bai Lian answered and turned her phone towards Su Nanjing, who just so happened to see a message stretched across the screen. Hello, your answer has been included as the standard answer. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.